Well, there you all are. Well, welcome in once again to another rockin' awesome night up here in Boston. Well, my name is Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the control panel of the six screens. Friends, I want you to stay with us tonight. I want to thank you all for coming in and wanting to be with us. We really appreciate your presence. So we're really excited tonight. We got a really good program coming up here on JW World News. We'll have an extended version today as well. We will not have a program after this. Eric and his Waking Up After the Watchtower program will not be on tonight, but we'll try to go till about 11 o'clock tonight if all goes well. But anyways, I'm glad you're with us. My goodness, we got a beautiful day up in Boston. I hope it's really nice where you are as well. And we are now into summer. And it's been kind of warm like it is pretty much all over the country. But up here in New England, it's a little cooler than I'd say down south. I've lived in both places, but I like it up here in the summer. It's a really pleasant place to be. Well, my goodness, we look around, we see things going on in the Watchtower. We get a lot of information coming forward that is quite, if you were a governing body member, you would be shocked what's being said about you online. Really, when you stop and think about it, there's nothing good to be said. All of the news coming across the internet is all negative. It's all critical of the Watchtower. So anyways, we'll be exposing the Watchtower tonight. We'll be getting into what's going on behind the curtains. Well, we have got a lot of things going on. We'll have Barbara Anderson coming on in a while. We'll bring her on. We're going to talk, we're going to talk for probably an half hour tonight all about the convention, folks. We got this ex-witness convention, and it is gaining momentum. I have to tell you that. I'm very happy with what I see. More and more people are writing me every day for tickets, and I hope you'll do that too and make the trek up here to Boston August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. But we'll get into that later on. We got Barbara Anderson coming on. We got Dan and Angela coming on. And then tonight at around 8 o'clock, right here Eastern time, we have a motivational speaker coming on. Excuse me. His name is Gary Cox. Gary Cox is a former Jehovah's Witness, a friend of mine. I met him years ago. In fact, he was very instrumental in actually getting this whole program started. We started on a telephone line. It was a conference line. We originally called it 20 years ago, the Six Screens Conference Call. But now we're on YouTube and Facebook, and we still do the conference call. We still have people coming in on the telephone line. So we appreciate that. But Gary Cox, let me tell you a little bit about Gary. He indeed is a former Jehovah's Witness. He was disfellowshipped, and it was hard on Gary. Gary really had a difficult time when they disfellowshipped him. And we all know what happens. I don't have to tell you what happens when you disfellowshipped. I think most people know who are listening into the program. But Gary really was hurting. And he came up to visit me. He came up to visit me years ago, and we spent the whole weekend together. And he said, Rick, why don't we, he had a business. Gary's a businessman, and he had a business where he used a conference call. Now, back then, that was something like brand new, where you could have more than, one caller on the line. Years ago, if you could bring two people on to have a conference call, three people on, that would be unreal. But Gary got this system that allowed you to bring on many people, up to 100 people. So I said, Gary, let's do it. And the very first call we had, Gary was interviewing me. That was the very first program we had 20 years ago on the Six Screens. And I must tell you, we didn't get what we thought we were going to get. I thought that the whole world would listen in. Well, I was in for a rude awakening. We got 23 people to listen in. And it was a little disheartening. I tried to promote it. Of course, I don't think there was even Reddit back then, but there was JWN. And I promoted it on there, and I figured it would gain some traction, which it did. We had 23 people listening to our call. But Gary said, well, Rick, I'm going to turn the whole thing over to you. And he did. And friends, I'm glad to say today that we get quite the community. We do pretty well. We do pretty well for getting people coming into the Six Screens on the conference call. But anyways, let me tell you a little bit about Gary. I want to tell you, he is an author. He's a motivational speaker. He's going to be coming on tonight. And this is a subject that all of you folks listening in tonight might appreciate. He wrote a book. It's called Don't Let Others Rent Space in Your Head. Well, don't you think the Watchtower rented space in our head? Of course they did. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you something. I've been out since 2005. That's when Satan kicked me out of the organization. But I'll tell you what, there's still residual thinking that comes up. And all of us listening here tonight, you have some residual content in your head from the Watchtower. You have to. So Gary tonight is going to come on and he's going to talk to us about how we can really let some of these thoughts that come up in our mind from the Watchtower, he's going to help us to wave a magic wand and get rid of them, make them disappear. Well, it might not be that easy. It might not be that easy. I mean, I think it might be more than waving a wand. Some of us are going to have to work on it, but he's going to help us understand where the first steps are and how we can get this stinking thinking, as we call it, out of our head. And then we'll have him on, and then we'll open the lines up, and he can answer questions. And after he goes, well, we can kind of just talk and let our hair down a little bit and, just have open lines, and you folks can call in. We'll play the duck game as well. We'll have fun with that. We get some people winning some good prizes, so we'll do that. But, I'm telling you folks, after doing the program for as many years as I have, I am thrilled to death that this is an amazing thing. I feel really good, and I tell you that. And I talk about that adrenaline rush. Do you guys get that adrenaline rush? I didn't get it too much when I was in the Watchtower. But friends, I am so happy. And I even tell my wife, I'm glad to be an older man. I really, really am. I'm 76 years old, but I'm so glad to even be an older man. I have gained so much understanding and wisdom. And if you're older out there too, don't be afraid of being old. There's no reason to be. I don't want to go back to being 22 or 30 years old. I'm happy right here. But I'll tell you, we all look at how many times have you heard older people say, gee, I only wish I had this knowledge and information when I was younger. Well, we all say that, don't we? But boy, I'll tell you one thing I learned. There's no way that I would ever be coerced or talked into or really pushed into an organization that is so nasty as the Watchtower. But, when you're young and you're not really operating with a full capacity, so to speak, you're still immature, the witnesses can really pull the wool over your eye. Really. You know that. Well, I was a born-in, basically. Well, my mother, she became one of Jehovah's Witnesses when I was probably about 2 or 3. But, when you're little, and I said this a million times before, when you're little, you don't really, not want to play with a kid in the recess time in the schoolyard because he's a Catholic or he's a Protestant or he's a little Jewish guy. You're not going to say, well, gee, you're Jewish, I'm not going to associate with you. Well, sad to say, that only comes in later years of life. But when you're little, that doesn't really concern you. And that's how I felt growing up as a witness. And fortunately, I had a father that was not one of Jehovah's Witnesses and never became a Jehovah's Witness, but he was happily married to my mother, who was a staunch, loyal Jehovah's Witness. And but my father was the one that really gave me some latitude, because you don't get latitude in the Watchtower. I mean, I could do things that other kids couldn't do. My father said, no, you want to play Little League Baseball, you play it. I played Little League Baseball. I love baseball. I played in the Babe Ruth League. I was also the MC at a school dance. Now, how many Jehovah's Witnesses could do that? Never mind being the MC. You couldn't even go to the dance. And my father even let me have dates, if you want to call it that. Geez, I was only in my late 15 years old. And my father said, hey, if he has a girlfriend, let him have a date. I mean, I wasn't like a real super mature guy or anything. And I had a couple of girlfriends, and they were nice. And I'll tell you what, there's no way that as a young 15, 16-year-old kid in the Watchtower that you could ever have a date. But thank God, I thank my father. My father lives in Pennsylvania. He's going to be 102 in August. That's amazing, and I thank God every day my father's still with me. But anyways, let's talk about some of the things that are going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Now, I'm going to tell you what's a fascinating thing that's taking place right now, and I figured I'd open up my newscast with this. Something that's really happening that is quite concerning is the fact that there's many elders right now stepping down, and we talked a little bit about that last week. But let me tell you something. They're stepping down and they're doing it in silence. They're not making a big drum roll about it. All right, they're still conducting Watchtower studies, and more than you would think. I got information into the 6 Screens today. I thought, well, should I carry this story? Should we make this a headline story here in the 6 Screens? I says, well, it's far and few in between. It's not. I couldn't believe as I dug a little bit deeper, I could not believe the amount of people that are getting out of the Watchtower. I can't believe elders that are leaving in droves, and they're still kind of, well, I say leaving, some are getting completely out, but some also are, they're afraid to leave. And I had some information today that was given to me on one elder that has a wife and kids, and they're entrenched in the religion. And he's still the Watchtower conductor, and he's going, what am I going to do? He's starting to see flaws. See, what you do is the elders are seeing it, and so many people are seeing it in the PMO class. All you have to do is get one little flaw, and then all of a sudden it leads to another thing, right? Maybe the little flaw has to do with, I'll just pick one here, maybe with the idea of, why is the Watchtower now lets men wear beards when they couldn't do it before? And all of a sudden they can do it now. That's a little flaw. And then it turns to another flaw. Then they look at that and they say, that's kind of a weird thought. How is it that Jehovah would actually let the Watchtower change their mind? Isn't Jehovah with the Watchtower? And then that could lead to thoughts about, why isn't Armageddon here? This organization isn't being truthful with us. And that's what the brother who gave me information today said. The organization isn't truthful. He started to see that a lot of the doctrines and policies of the Watchtower don't make any sense. So once you start little by little, and didn't that happen with you? It happened with me. I found one little thing, then another little thing, and I didn't even want to believe it. I said, I know this must be apostate stuff. I don't believe this. But one thing leads to another. And I'm sure as you're sitting listening to this program tonight, that's what happened with you. You didn't totally believe everything you heard that was negative about the Watchtower at first. No, you didn't. You said, gee, it bothered me. When I started hearing all of this critical stuff going on, one of the first things I heard, of course, was the Watchtower being involved with the United Nations. And I really couldn't accept that. I said, that's going to be a lie. That's going to be made up by apostates. Because I went back after I found out that the Watchtower was involved with the United Nations. I went back just to refresh my mind on how many times the Watchtower condemned the United Nations. I counted over 4,300 times in Watchtower publications. The Watchtower had nothing good to say about the United Nations. You all know it. I know it. The United Nations was the image of the wild beast. The United Nations was the great conspirator. The United Nations was the disgusting thing standing in the holy place. I mean, they had a number of terms for it. And that's what got me thinking, well, why would an organization be part of the United Nations when they condemn it? And then when, people started investigating it, what did they say? Well, we got it for a library card. But if you've done your research, like my wife Susan has done, you will find that you don't have to have a library card even to get into the United Nations library. So that was a bunch of baloney as well. But that's just some of the things. I mean, I'm trying to embed in your way of thinking that if you're a PMO out there, and maybe your mate isn't, maybe your husband or maybe your wife is not a PMO, she still or he is still entrenched in this. You want to try to do a little at a time. Don't try to jump down their throat. Just a little flaw, but do it very carefully. And you know what I often think about? Remember when the first astronauts went up into space and they put them in that space capsule and they sent them up there in space. Now, when they came down and they had to re-enter the atmosphere, if they didn't enter the atmosphere at exactly the right angle, that little space capsule would burn up and they would be gone. So whoever did the mathematics on this, it had to be correct. That little space capsule coming out of space would not burn up if it came in at a certain angle. That's exactly how I feel we have to kind of talk to a Jehovah's Witness. We got to enter it at a certain angle or we get burnt up. They won't even listen. So you got to be cautious. So I'm thinking, not that I'm totally successful in bringing people out of the Watchtower. And there's people out there that are pretty successful. But I'm just thinking, I brought some people out. And one of the things that got them out is letting them see a little flare, a little flaw at a time. Don't overload their donkey. Make it just a little flaw at a time. So anyways, maybe you guys have been doing that. And maybe some out there right now are jumping with glee that they're having their relatives and friends calling them up and saying, hey, I'm out of this. I had that happen to me. So I don't think it's unusual that's going to happen. And, we talk about it here on the Six Screen so many times on how many PMOs. And if you're just listening for the first time, and you don't know what a PMO is, that's an acronym. That's an acronym for Jehovah's Witness that is physically in, mentally out. You say, well, what does that mean? That means you're going to the meetings in a perfunctory way. That means you're going and you're just going through the motions because you know what will happen if you leave. I mean, it's the death nail, right? All your relatives, friends. So a lot of people, they're kind of just faking it until they can make it. I mean, that's what's going on until they get the right exit door, the right exit ramp to get out of there. So many still a little skittish, and I can understand that. So how many PMOs do you think are out there? Well, I can't give you an exact number. I'm not going to come on here and say, I know the exact number of PMOs because I don't. But I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to give you a good educated guess. And that's based on you. That's based on, 10, 12 years of working with this acronym PMO that I'm going to go on the record to tell you there's 4 million PMOs. There are 4 million Jehovah's Witnesses that are going through the motions. That's right. They're going through the motions. They don't believe it. They don't. But what are they going to do? So they're just going to hanging on, going to meetings, going out in service. And that even includes the elders. Like I was saying at the very outset, there are so many elders in the PMO class. Now, put yourself in the governing body's shoes. What would you do? What would you do knowing this? And they know it. Yeah, the governing body knows there's millions of PMOs in the organization. So you say, well, how do they know that, Rick? I mean, did someone tell you that? No. Look we have to be, ex-witnesses have to be like the CIA. The Watchtower is not going to say, hey, Rick, I'm going to tell you what's going on in the Watchtower. No. What's the CIA? Does Iran right now, did they call up the director of the CIA and say, hey, Mr. CIA director, I'm going to tell you, we're going to put some soldiers over here on the eastern border of Iran. Then we're going to have a big force on the western border. They're not going to share that. So what's the CIA have to do? They got to extract this intelligentsia. They've got to extract this because the enemy is not going to give it to you. So I'm extracting. You do your research. When we look at what's going on behind the curtains, we have to extract information. So what I'm extracting right now and realizing that the governing body knows there's millions of PMOs. And I know that. I'm extracting information from current watchtowers. As a matter of fact, in the last year, there's been at least 3 that I know of that have talked about disloyal ones maybe sitting next to you in the Kingdom Hall. And don't friendly up the people that have this bad attitude toward Jehovah. They're coming out and expressing this. So I'm extracting information, aren't I? And you can do that too. There's nothing wrong with extracting information, but I can see that this is all happening as we speak. So the governing body is going to do everything they could to and can do to put the brakes on. And I mean, how many people? And you can't just disfellowship someone thinking. You got to have evidence. But another thing that's going on, and the Watchtower is encouraging the publishers to do this. Spy. Yeah, spy. You heard it right. Yeah, the publishers in the congregations are now being instructed to spy on the fellow witnesses. You see anything they're doing, come and tell us. Did you see that? Did you see that in recent articles of the Watchtower? Yeah, they want you to be a real tattletale. Now, witnesses have always been a tattletale, but now, I mean, they're getting it right from the governing body's mouth, right in the pages of the Watchtower. Be a tattletale. Don't be inhibited. You come forth. If you see someone going astray, come tell us about it. Isn't that something? You know, it gets pretty creepy when an organization has to spy on you. Isn't that something? But that's what's going on, folks. Well, does anyone have any thoughts on that? If you do, hit *6. Say hello to me. What's your thoughts on it? What do you think? You think there's a lot of elders leaving? Maybe you have elders leaving in your congregation. I know, well, I don't know what's going on in my congregation I used to be in. I haven't been following that because they've been changing it all around, different people coming in from different areas and whatever. So I can't even follow that. But what about you? Do you have a story to tell about elders? Were you an elder once? Did you have leave? And did you leave the Watchtower? Are you still in? Go ahead, hit *6. Don't be bashful. Speak up. I just want to make sure that we got the right lines here. We've been having a little trouble with the phone lines, but no, it seems to be working. So if anyone wants to come in and share their thoughts, by all means, come on in. Yep. Go ahead. You're on with us.
Hi, Rick.
That's Susan?
Yes, it's me. We've been talking a lot about this subject of elders, and one thing that I noticed, elders are starting. You hear that in the line?
Somebody else was on the line wiggling papers, so I muted them, but I'll get you back. 714, hang in. We'll get back with you, but we heard papers in the background. Go ahead, Susan.
714 wants to go. I don't want to.
No, go ahead. You stay on. What were we going to say?
Well, I was just saying that a lot of elders are now wearing beards. We've seen pictures of kingdom halls, and they seem to be falling into that category. You know, now it used to be a sign of rebellion to wear a beard, but they're wearing them now, and it just kind of shows that they're kind of falling into what the rest of the world is doing instead of trying to separate themselves.
Well, absolutely, and we would just by the process of logic that the elders must be seeing this, that they're supposed to be the captain of their little ship, the Kingdom Hall. Elders are not oblivious to all of these policy changes, and they're also going to meetings that the average rank and file witness doesn't go to. So consequently, they're going to be hearing things there that are going to start making them scratch their head, Susan. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing that with us. Okay, 714, do you want to come in? 714, want to come on? Go ahead, you're on with us. Don't be shy.
Hi, Rick.
Oh, that's Nadine. Hello, Nadine.
Hi, Rick. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I was listening to you talking about how they're supposed to be little spies and tell on each other. And well, I have to say that I must have been a really bad Jehovah's Witness because I never told on any of my friends, and I never told on myself either. I always kept everything, quiet. I didn't believe in really going to the elders. And And so I was, young, and I just had my own thoughts, and I just never confessed anything, and and I never told on my friends.
So you were a sinner, Nadine? Is that what you're saying?
No, but according to them, probably. But no, I was always a really good person, even when I was young. But they want to get you in trouble for talking to somebody at work, or just for any little thing. And I just kept everything to myself.
Well, now,
I must have been a bad Jehovah's Witness.
well, did you have conscience problems? Did it bother your conscience?
No. Mm-mm.
Huh.
No, it did not.
Oh, that's funny you say that, because I'll tell you what. I'm glad you got out pretty much unscathed, Nadine. You sound like a pretty straight-laced lady to me. But, there's a lot of people that have severe problems with their conscience. And we've had them come on here. But I'm glad you could get out and you come on the program, and you're very sensible-minded, and you're able to walk the walk and talk the talk. And I'm glad. But, there's so many people, Nadine, that have really been hurt by this organization, seriously hurt.
And I'm not saying that I wasn't hurt, because I think back to my mother. I think she was the one who hurt me the most. And by just being like born into it, and I really didn't get to do the things that I really wanted to do. I didn't get to be friends with people 100%. It was like a 50%. It wasn't like in school. I knew that I couldn't, and it might have been a conscious thing then about friends and things like that I could only be friends with, so far, but not completely. And so that's where I feel kind of a resentment was towards my mother. And she never even told me, you can't do this, you can't do that, but it was inbred into my mind. So like I couldn't go to school dances, and I couldn't really do a lot of things. It was like 50%. So I was like 50% in and 50% out. So I was really nothing completely. And so that's, I think, where I have an issue with. But as far as telling on myself, and I didn't tell on myself. Or anybody else, and it wasn't anything really bad or anything. So I do get it about how people have been, harmed by the religion.
Well, that's good. You can speak up and talk about it. It's it's something, and I often wonder when we do these programs, and of course we're not the only one that is exposing the Watchtower. We've got so many activists out there now. But as many times as I've been doing this now, like I say, for 20 years. And so what I think of at times is what is the obsession? I'll use that. What's the obsession with exposing these guys? Sometimes I wonder. And then I said, well, wait a minute, I'm not the only one, but I have relatives. In fact, they just will walk away and say, Rick, I don't really want anything to do with Jehovah's Witnesses anymore, and I'm just going to go on my merry way. And they do that. But then I'm thinking, how did I get stuck with this obsession? And even Nadine, you do too, to some degree. We can't, and we got so many people to call in here, and we're all kind of, I'm going to use the word obsessed, but it could be, it's more than a fetish. I could say a fetish, but I'm going to say it seems very unusual. And even when my former wife died, and I told you folks all about that, and I met my new beautiful wife, Susan, and we've been married now, we're going on 11 years, actually 12 years. And I got thinking, and I wanted to connect with a person that was an ex-witness. And the reason for that is they would think I was crazy. Every Saturday night, Rick, you got to do that silly 6-screen thing again. Let's go out to the movies. I want to go out to a restaurant. But no, I do it. And she was able to deal with that. But you can imagine if you got hooked up with someone that never knew what the Jehovah's Witness religion was all about, they would wonder, get over it, Nadine. Come on, knock it off.
Well, here's the thing. If you're trying to explain to someone who's never been a Jehovah's Witness, you really can't, because there's so much. There's just so many little things to tell. All the policies and more like the politics behind everything. And it's just too much. It's overwhelming. And no wonder we're overwhelmed, because we went through all of that. And then we had to, navigate ourselves through all of that, and for protection. Like, that's why I didn't say anything. If I knew something was going on, I didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't want to be a troublemaker. I'd make trouble for someone, and it's just too much. It's too much to explain to someone who doesn't understand and who has not been a Jehovah's Witness.
Well, I would ask you this. I'd say, Nadine, now you've been out for a while. You've done a lot of research. I know that. Now, if you had an opportunity to sit one of Jehovah's Witnesses down and they had a listening ear, where would you start telling them about the Watchtower? What would you start off with, Nadine? I'm just curious.
Okay, I would start off with the history. I would say, do you know the history of how the religion started? Because if I would have known that, I don't think I could become a Jehovah's Witness. But see, I was born in, so I was at a disadvantage. But I don't even think my mother knew the history with Charles Russell and Rutherford. But I think if anyone knows that history, they would think twice about it.
I give you an A+ for that, because that is, I often think of that myself, and you could approach it delicately. That's not like in your face. Do you know you guys are hiding pedophiles? They might not believe that at first, but you could say, hey, look it, I've done some research like you. I'm not telling you. I know you could do a fine job, but history is a great starting point, and I'd start there too. Because most witnesses, how do you deny history? And even if they said, well, I challenge you on that, at least we have facts to back it up, right?
Right, exactly. So I think I would just start with the history. And when I found out the history, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how come I never knew this? How come I never knew this? But I have to tell you, when I was young, like 8, 9, 10 years old, I was at this book study, and there was a sister there. Her name was Joyce, and she just recently passed away. But, and I was just a little kid, and it was at her house. And she was the only person I know that talked about Charles Russell. And I didn't know who Charles Russell was. And she kept talking about Charles Russell. So she knew some things. I don't know if she knew everything. And I was very young, so I didn't question anything. I just was listening. I would listen a lot when I was, young. And she was the only person I know that talked about it. I never heard anybody else ever mention Charles Russell when I was going to the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah, nobody really even knows anything about him,
Right. And she would mention it, and I was always thinking, and I was young, and I'd say, who is Charles Russell? Who is this Charles Russell? What does this mean? But she knew about it, and she would talk to people at the book study about it, and I really don't know. I don't remember a response. Other people might not have really known what she was talking about, but I do remember that she was the only one that I ever heard mention that name.
Isn't that something? So, a lot of people really, they're so naive. And even when I made a trip down to Bethel, and back in the year 2000, actually, they were distancing themselves. I could see they were distancing themselves from Russell. When they talked about past presidents and what have you, it was always Rutherford and Knorr and Franz, but they really are distancing themselves. Even to this day, you'd be hard pressed to get one of Jehovah's Witnesses to talk about Russell. They just wouldn't do it, you know.
Do you remember, Rick, when they were okaying the beards? There was a video, and they talked about how Russell had a nice white long beard, and so they were going to go back to that. Even Russell had a beard, is what they said. Do you remember that? It just came out probably last year.
Yeah,
when they talked about the beards.
I do remember that. Yes.
They did bring up Russell one time.
Yeah.
But they tried not to talk about him.
Yeah.
But when it suits their purpose, then they'll bring it out.
Yes, they will.
The beard.
Well, you
Exactly.
hang on right there with us. We got a fella. We got someone coming in here. Looks like 520. Did 520
See you later.
Well, thank you, Nadine. Now you play the duck game. I'm going to play that tonight. I want to see you win. Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Rick.
Okay. Thank you. Well, that's Nadine. Let's go to 520. 520. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, Rick. This is Chris out in Arizona, and oh boy, I'm very seldom able to listen to you live, but what you and Nadine were talking about rung so true with me, and I successfully faded some years ago, probably last active around 2003, but I was an elder for about 8 years, and there was, in my case, an entire subset of elders and others that I used to use the term that were cool with, drinking and having nothing really outrageous, but, jokes and this and that. We had to be careful about who we talked to. And occasionally, if we were with someone that we didn't know or whatever, what we were up to was sort of exposed, but never completely. That is to say, I remember one time a young ministerial servant, we all went on a trip camping, or not camping per se, but up in the mountains here and rented a cabin and so forth. And, we all drank too much, but we knew how to manage it. This young lad got overly intoxicated and, and everything was fine until we went back, and evidently he talked to his wife, and then his wife told me, other elders in our congregation, oh my gosh, how could you let this happen? So we had to do some tap dancing and that sort of thing to cover our rear ends, and just sort of say, we were all drinking, and we didn't know he had drank too much until it was too late, which was pretty much the truth. But things like that, and so faded actually, as far as I know. I mean, I never got officially disfellowshipped, as far as I know, but some things happened to me, as Nadine was saying, the politics and so forth. Nothing came to light that I or anyone else had ever done, but just because I was placed in a congregation that was having problems, and they thought, or the circuit overseer thought I could help, and so when I made a geographic move, I was placed there. So anyway, and it blew up in my face, and that's when I got out.
Well, good for you, Chris. My goodness, that's in fact, I started the program off tonight with information that people have been sending me on congregations that they're in, that the elders are like Pimo. And, they kind of know it, but you hate to go up and say, hey, Mr. Elder, you a Pimo? But wouldn't you, I mean, they're putting an, well, one man's information I got today is the poor guy. He's an elder. He's the Watchtower study conductor. I think he said he was the coordinating elder too. And he says it's so. This is Rick. I love Jehovah's Witnesses. I love the drunken Bethelites. Say what? Yeah, that's just, sorry.
The conference has been locked.
What's going on?
Yeah, we get them. They come in. They don't like the program, but we keep going at it, Chris. We keep going. But anyways, the information I got today was quite startling, because I tried to put myself in their shoes. This elder has a wife, as I was saying, and 2 kids, and they are really into the organization's teachings. He doesn't know what to do. He says, geez, I don't want to get divorced. I don't want to have my kids separate from me. what a predicament this organization puts on people, Chris.
Well, I was born in like Nadine, and so I was raised in the culture and so forth. And the other thing that really got me was the 50% in, 50% out. Man, I grew up like that. It was always, the same deal. You could never fully participate, always on the outside looking in. That is to say, with regular people. And so, I felt, bad leading a quote unquote double life. It was nothing real severe. I mean, I wasn't, doing crazy stuff. And, like so many JWs and elders in particular, the alcohol and this and that and everything's for less. It's almost like, or I would go out. I mean, hey, I was Watchtower conductor. I mean, public talk. I was kind of a show horse, not a workhorse, is the way I describe myself. And I just, hit it out of the park as far as talks and that kind of stuff. It was all just, I don't know, man. It was just, it was kind of rough. And now I will say this: I don't want to get. I know you don't want to talk about necessarily about scripture or religious things. I get that. I'm a born again Christian, very happy with Christ, and I look at everything that I went through as getting me to where I'm at right now, and that is happily in Christ and listening to guys or folks like you, and it's very therapeutic for me what you do, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, you're very welcome. In fact, it's like some people actually, it's like one big giant therapy session. And, where people can come together and voice their concerns, it's very, very helpful. I mean, that's the first thing a therapist, I'm not a therapist, but that's the first thing I'm sure they would say is, well, thank you for coming in and wanting to share your thoughts. Because what it is, we all have this residual stuff, bad teachings, craziness from the Watchtower that's still in us, and it takes some time to get it out. And by talking about it, we get it out. So that's good that you called in, Chris. I really appreciate you coming in and wanting to be part of the program. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about right now. But I just enjoy your program, and there's so many people on there. I could, there's different names. I mean, just the different ones that call in and so forth. I really enjoy listening to them, and Nadine especially. I tuned in a little bit late here, but just listening to her was so comforting, validating, whatever you want to say. So I guess that's about it for now. I'm going to listen for a while longer and probably catch the rest of it. Unfortunately, I'll probably listen to it later. But that's okay. I really appreciate you, and I'm glad things are working out for you. Sounds like you're a happy man. And you know what? I'm happy too now. And again, this isn't just a part of that recovery. Thank you.
Well, no, that's good you do, because that really, life can be, look at there's rough edges, and we all experience them from time to time. But boy, life is so much more pleasant without some controlling organization telling us how to act every day of the week. It's too much. Too much.
I consider myself an intelligent man. I'm thinking, how in the world did I find all that? I think a lot of it was being raised into, and it's like that's the rough part, And one more quick thing.
Sure.
I'm 71 years old. Everybody, most everyone that I know, I think only a couple of people would say fellow elders. Yeah, I can say fellow elders because they're dead now. What I was going to say. And it wasn't, I don't think it Watchtower killed them, but my friends, parents are gone. I don't have kids, and we never had children because they're waiting for, the new system. And that's okay too. And everyone's gone, so they're gone. And I'm still here, and you're here in this program. So, I'm kind of 50% in, 50% out. Well, I still get to listen to it. So,
well, good for you at the very outset there is telling the people, I'm 76, and you know something? I don't want to go back to being a young man again. I'm happy at 76 years old. I'm very happy. I really am. I wish I had the knowledge and the wisdom. I mean, I'm no super smart guy here, but I know a lot more than I did when I was 20 years old. I'll tell you that. And I would love to go back. We all say it. I'd love to go back and have this wisdom and knowledge now. But one thing that I do understand too is every generation is different, and I'm acknowledging that. And, every generation in the past, of course, is beat up on the generation behind them. But I'll tell you what, it's a difficult thing. And I recognize that. It was a lot easier for people, Chris, when you and I were growing up. People today, they really coming into the world is putting a lot of pressure on them. It really is, even though it's modern and technology, but just the cost of being able to maintain a house and be able to live a normal life, that the people coming behind us, they're having a tough time. Yep.
Yes, sir. You're right about that. Okay, my friend. Well, listen, I'll call back some other time, and but in the meantime, I'll listen a little bit longer. I'm sure. Do you have people backed up right now, or?
Right now, fine. We got a number of people. I locked up the call. I have to do that, so I'll probably unlock it. Yeah, every once in a while. Good. Thank you.
Okay, I'll check. I'll continue listening, and God bless you, and you have a good show. It's always good.
And by the way, you got a real good radio voice. You got a real good voice. You got what they call resonance. Your voice carries really well, really well. Thank you.
Well, here again, just to back up, that's all from the theocratic. I was a theocratic ministry school overseer. So that's where it gets a lot. So there's some good things that can be pulled out of growing up as a witness.
You got it. Thank you, Chris. All right.
I'll talk to you again.
Well, you're on the Six Screens Tele-Network. My name's Rick Farron. I'm up here in Boston. Hey, I'm having fun tonight. You guys having fun? My goodness, I hope you are. And I'm glad you're listening in. I'm glad you're spending a night here with us here on the Six Screens. We got a lot coming up. We've got Barbara Anderson. Well, we all know her, right? Well, she's coming on. She's going to come on. We're going to talk in about, I'd say, let me look at the time here now. Okay, probably maybe within the next half hour or so, where we're going to be talking all about the ex-Jehovah's Witness Convention, still alive in 2025. We'll be talking about that. And, I know there's a lot of people out there, and you'd love to come. And I can understand it's hard. I get that. And so, but I'm going to tell you, we're going to live stream it. This is going to be a history-making moment, and you'll be able to see it all on video. So I would love to have everybody come, but I know the hardships of coming are unbelievable. So let's check out 201. 201, go ahead. You're on with us. Go ahead. 201.
Hi, Rick.
Hi. Who's this?
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
First guest. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. So what was your name, sir?
Bruce.
Bruce. I'm sorry.
I just want to say thank you for everything you and Susan are doing. You're doing such an amazing job. I'm so proud of you both. Thank you so much.
Well, Bruce, thank you. Now, can I ask where you're calling in from?
Me, I'm calling from New Jersey.
New Jersey. Well, my goodness. Well, I'm glad you called in here tonight. So you were a witness at one time, Bruce?
I was, and I left. I got out of there. But I just wanted to say, at 76, you're doing an amazing job, Rick. 76. Oh, my God.
Yeah, well, thank you. I was telling my wife today, when you first start doing something like this, it really is kind of rough on you. 20 years ago when I started. But, when you're doing something for 20 years, you kind of get used to it. You kind of get into the groove. And that's what I do. And I enjoy it. In fact, this is really one of my favorite days of the week, to be able to get in and talk to everybody. And like yourself from New Jersey.
It's amazing at 76.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll tell you what, I think I have good genes. My father lives in Pennsylvania, and he's going to be 102 in August. And he knows all the base. Wow. He loves the New York Yankees. He gets up, he walks around, he has a cane. But I was down there a year or so ago, and he says, geez, Rick, I need a haircut. Could you take me to the barber? So I took him to the barber, and I parked the car in front of the barber shop, and I got out to open the door to help him in. No, I'm all right. Geez, he walked right out like a spring chicken with his cane. He was 101 at the time and walked into the barber. So he does good. So he hopefully he'll be around a while longer. And if you have good genes, and I often think of that, sometimes, geez, you can do all the
Another 30 years in there.
yeah. So sometimes, you can do all the exercises in the world. You can eat the right food. You can, do the right things, get good sleep, and you can still have problems. But you just never know. But, I'll tell you what, how are you doing? Can I ask how old you are, Bruce?
I'm going really good. I just wanted to comment that you're the only 76-year-old that I know that can take a 12-inch cock right up his ass.
Yeah, you think so?
I love it.
Well, anyways, folks, you're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, and isn't it great to hear people? People at times they have a hard time, dealing with this program. They really, really do. And but we appreciate everyone calling in. And I don't know why people have issues with me. I feel like Rodney Dangerfield at times. I really do, but it's okay. I'm just, well, I'll tell you what, I was discussing this today. I had a man call me up. He says, Rick, you do a lot to expose the Watchtower. You've been doing it for many, many years. Why do so many people?
The conference has been unlocked.
They say, well, why do so many people dislike you? And that's true. Ever since I started, a lot of people do not like the Six Screens. And there's probably a couple of reasons why. But one of the reasons is, and I'm not ashamed to tell anybody, in the Jehovah's Witness, ex-witness community, let's go with that, there is two camps. There are two camps. There is the believer camp and the unbeliever camp. Now, I'm not going to I'm a believer. I believe in God, even after I left the Watchtower. But a lot of people don't. So there's like two different camps. There's a believer camp and an unbeliever camp. But I love even the unbelievers. They call in. I'm not going to be a Christian in their face. They have every right in the world to choose whatever position they want. So I don't preach to people on Saturday night. You all know that. But it's that Christian flavor. It's that Christian way, I guess, even though I don't do preaching on Saturday night. But the people, they don't like Christian people. And it's a sad thing. But I always say that, well, listen, even if you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses or an ex-Jehovah's Witness that left, and even if you're an atheist, you're my friend. You're my friend. We're an ally together. All right. We're both brothers and sisters trying to fight against the evils of the Watchtower. So, but we got a bad rap for that. And then another thing is, in the very beginning, we were the first ones, really. I'm not patting myself on the back, but we were before all the others. And there was only a handful of people that were exposing the Watchtower back around 2000. There wasn't many people at all. And what took place here is we talked about things, like I said, that nobody else would talk about. Satanic ritual abuse, for example. We talked about the pedophilia problem. We talked about the Watchtower laundering money. We talked about how rich the governing body was and the vehicles that they drive. And people said, oh, Rick's just trying to sensationalize. But, now all of a sudden, as the years have progressed along, everybody knows they were involved in this. Everybody now knows they were involved in sex trafficking. I mean, we talked about that 10 years ago. Nobody believed me. Oh, come on, Rick. You're just trying to get people to listen in. So we got a bum rap. I suppose, what it always reminds me of, like even in the movies, once you get attached to a certain role, well, I think of Robert De Niro, for example. Let's use him, for example. When you're cast as a heavy, it's very hard to play a nice man. So this happened years ago. So the Six Screens Telenetwork got this. Well, they sensationalize and they make things up. And, I've never heard things like that before. It must be made up. So we also got a bad rap on that. But, people, that part of it's going away because people are now realizing that the Watchtower is just as bad as we were saying 20 years ago and worse. And friends, I have to tell you, you know it anyways, I think. This organization, nasty. It is wicked. I've been talking all week. We're putting this convention together, and I've been talking all week long with people who are coming and going to be giving talks. And we've got people lined up. I cannot believe the stories they're telling me. I'm saying this happened in the Watchtower. Are you willing to get on stage and talk about this? They want to go with it. You're going to hear things at this Still Alive in 2025 convention. You are going to be hearing things you've never heard before. Hey, I'm just going to check here and make sure. We do have other people coming in. I'm just going to make a little check here to make sure that the people I sent the link to, we got Barbara Anderson coming on. We got Dan Clark coming on. And we have a special. His name is Gary Cox. And Gary Cox is now a professional motivational speaker. And he's written a number of books. And one of them is Don't Let Others Rent Space in Your Mind. What does that remind you of? Well, Gary's a whole bunch of stuff that he had book to do with the witness world. So anyways, everybody got the link here. So just give me a second as I check that. I'm a one-man show here, so I can only do so much. But I just want to make sure that go through. Let me just see in the send column here. I'm on send column. It's loading here now. Yeah, what it is excuse me, we have a platform here. It's called StreamYard. And what StreamYard does, I'm able to send people a link to the live program with a link that you were going to come on my program tonight. You would get a link in your email. And then what you do is you hit the link. happens here is stage.
You had flashed on for just a second.
All right. All right. Yep. Okay. There we are. We're on now. I think people can see me. Friends, I want to say, I don't know why we went off. Our internet connection evidently went down, but we're back. Is that all right now, Stefan? Can you see us? Yep. I believe you can. It's hard sometimes to see what's happening, but anyways.
So good.
Oh, it's good now. Okay. So we're back in action here, folks. Thank you for bearing with us. So anyways, what I was just talking about is baptism. And baptism is now something that, you used to, one time when I got baptized, you had to answer 200 questions. Yeah. Well,
You open the phone.
yeah. Okay.
The conference has been locked.
Yeah, we've got, a lot of people playing around.
Every Saturday night, we bring together.
Hold on one
The
second.
conference has been unlocked.
Okay, friend, boot him out. All right.
The conference has been locked.
Okay, folks, we have to lock up the call again. These are drunken Bethelites, as we call them. They come in a lot, but that's okay. Well, we only go through with this. If you're on the program right now on the telephone line, stay there. Or if you go out and try to come in again, it'll be locked. We're back and forth here. They do not want us speaking. But anyways, we're back on YouTube. Thank you guys for being patient. We did evidently lose internet transmission here tonight, but we're back with you. And anytime that happens, just stay with us and we'll work through it. I even have a portable generator here if I have to get things moving. So anyways, what I was talking about is baptism. And baptism seems to be a new policy in the Watchtower right now. A number of congregations, from information that was given to me this week, are now baptizing almost anybody. You don't have to answer questions. You don't have to in any way be a real staunch witness. You don't have to even be going out in service. And I'm hearing that even people that just come to the meeting occasionally don't ever go out in service. I'm now hearing they're being baptized. Think about that one. So I don't know. I mean, things are changing in the Watchtower. Now I'm just thinking, why do you think that they would kind of lighten up the rules for baptism? I mean, I know it's running through your head. Why do you think they would lighten up the rules for baptism? Who would like to come on and answer that? Go ahead and hit *6. Well, what are you thinking? I mean, am I the only one?
Trying to get the numbers up.
Stefan, exactly. Well, why else would they do that? They're trying to get the numbers up. That's it. Period. Hey, we want to bring Dan and Angela Clark on. I see them in the backstage here. Let's add them to the stage right now and get them on. Add to stage. Things that I don't know what it is. The internet's working very slow here tonight. Boy, is this driving me nuts or what? Well, what I'm going to do here, hold on, Dan and Angela. We'll get you on here. We just got a couple of things we got to work through. And for some reason, what I'm going to do is get rid of some of these browsers. Just give me a second. It's really annoying. Boy, usually have a great connection, but tonight we're not doing that great with connections. Okay, let me get rid of this. Let me just get rid of close out a couple of browsers that could be creating an issue. Close a couple of browsers. Just give me a second and we'll be right back. See if that'll help. Boy, I don't know what's going on here, folks. All right, let's see if we can add them to the stage. All right, there they are. All right, hello, Dan. Hello, Angela.
Hi.
Hey, can you hear us okay?
Oh, yeah. Geez, you guys look like movie stars out there. You look good. You got the nice sunny green. So things are going good out there,
I
huh?
hope so. We're trying to. Well,
Good.
it's maybe our last, few days out here, out in Idaho, where we got our house for sale. So we're going to be moving from this river property. So we're just trying to enjoy it for the last, who knows how long we're going to be here, But
Well, boy, that's amazing that you're willing
Looks
to
like the
just
internet's doing all sorts of weird stuff tonight.
yeah. So like it looks like you might be moving to another area. Have you kind of picked some areas out you like?
Yeah, we've been looking at a lot of different areas.
No.
Every time we look too long, it's like, well, we better not go to that area.
Right, right.
You know, they all might be the same, but I don't know. It's one of those things we got time to pick and choose and think and meditate on it and really think about, do we want to live in heat or do we want to live in snow or do we want to live in Mosquitoville, Tornadoville? If you're in the middle of the country, you're going to be nailed with tornadoes and weather and mosquitoes. If you go a little more north, you're going to be, have a little colder weather. You get by the Great Lakes and the coast. So we're just kicking around where we want to live. So far, the heats feel like it might be out.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I lived in Florida for 10 years.
Oh,
The winters are beautiful, but
yeah.
boy, the summers are torturous.
Oh,
No
I mean,
way. No way.
no.
too much, too
Yeah.
much.
We
So,
walked down the beach, Rick. We didn't walk 50 yards. We went to see my daughter down in Daytona. And I mean, we were like, man, we got to get in the air. And I thought, how do people live here? I guess they adjust to it. But man, the minute you get up, you got the air conditioner going, you get, and I've lived in that climate before down in Houston. I lived there 10 years. But man, I tell you, it was so hot. I was like, you just want to escape and there's no way to escape. And the other thing is, we were down in Georgia and we had never saw rain like we saw down in Georgia. We were like, the windows were sweating on the inside and it was raining every day. And the lady goes, "Oh, this is the rainy season." And I was like, okay. We went down to Florida and they had the roads blocked. And we're like, "What's wrong?" They said, "Torrential rains. Don't go this way. Torrential rains. Don't go this way." We were trapped out in Tallahassee. And we're like, how do we get there? Hail. And I'm like, man, my daughter's like, maybe you want to move to Florida. I'm like, no, not moving to Florida. I mean, I think it's a nice place, and I know a lot of good people that live there. But man, I don't know. I don't know. Heat, and rain, and
Yeah, maybe the East Coast. Maybe the East Coast. We'll see.
well,
East Coast.
I'll tell you, I'd say to people, well, come to Massachusetts, but I don't want to say that. People are moving out. Well, no, they're not really moving out of Massachusetts. They're coming here, but it's a good place, but it's very expensive. But I'll tell you what, the summers are beautiful, and when people coming to the convention this summer, they're going to notice it. Once in a while we get a humid day, but I mean, I lived in both places, and I've been back now for 20 years plus. I don't think I've seen 3 days that gets as hot as Florida in the summer. It's at least it's livable here. At least you can
Yeah.
walk out. You can walk outside. You can eat a sandwich. You're not sweating. You could take 4 or 5 showers a day in Florida. That's ringing wet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we like the leaves too, and all the seasons, and
Oh
we just
yeah.
love
Yeah,
the
I do
seasons.
too.
We love fall, we love winter, we love a light winter, but we just love the seasons, don't we?
Yeah.
So Rick, we were gonna. I don't know if you wanted us to chat a little bit about the assembly or about my uncle Neil, give you an update.
Or
Well,
the
why don't you
convention coming up.
tell us about Uncle Neil first?
Okay.
Because you told us that before, and that was kind of a thought-provoking story you brought to our attention. So finish that up, and then what we'll do, we'll talk a little about the convention.
Yes. Yeah, we got as you guys know from last week, I'll just make it brief. We got a call from my uncle. Maybe it was a week and a half ago, but I hadn't talked to him in years. The only time I've seen him is funerals and on Zoom. That's it. And so he called me, acted like he was my best friend. My brother connected with me, acted like we were best friends.
The oldest brother.
My
the
oldest brother.
elder.
He's still in, told me his whole life story. And I thought, what the hell changed in Watchtower? And so anyway, we were discussing last week that he might be a PMO. We had 2 or 3 3-hour sessions where I told him what I told him. I sent him Tony Morris's video. He's 81. I sent him Tony Morris's video. I sent him Stephen Lett's video. I said, don't you think Stephen Lett's crazy? Don't you think Tony Morris is nuts? I said, you're telling me you love me, Uncle Neil, but Tony's saying he wishes I was dead. Which is it? So we were having this dialogue back and forth. And so guess what happened? You are not going to believe what happened. He asked me to come to the meeting to see the circuit overseer
On Zoom.
on Zoom. I said, what did you say? He says, I want you to come see the circuit overseer, Danny, and I want you to come to the Kingdom Hall. I said, okay. So he couldn't believe it. So he said, the meeting's going to start at 8 o'clock your time, 10 o'clock our time. And I was like, okay. And so I go on there. I'm going to tell you two things. One, I went on there. He couldn't believe I was on there. I'm not afraid of the witnesses. I'm not afraid to go into Kingdom Hall. I'm not afraid to take a stand for what I believe, what I know to be true. I'm not under hypnosis or brainwashing anymore. So here I am at the meeting, and there's this big guy, dopier than dopey. I'm sorry, I'm going to call him like it is. He's dopey. Had a big beard. I mean, a Santa Claus beard. And he was like the greeter. And all he did was stand in front of the camera like this. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And then my Uncle Neil walks in behind him. Is Danny there? Is Danny there? And I said, Neil, I'm here. I yelled out kind of loud. But anyway, this guy just was like grabbing his beard and he was looking at me like, look, we get to wear beards. And I'm like, you dumbass, it's taken you all that you had to let governing body tell you after 40 years you could wear a beard. You're stupid. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not telling that. Of course, I'm being nice. How you doing? But he was so proud of that beard. He just couldn't get enough. He's like, don't you think I'm beautiful and handsome? And, he's doing all this. And I'm like, man, get him off there. He's not even a greeter. And he's smiling, wasn't he? He was just smiling like, welcome, And so anyway, they started the meeting, the circuit overseer. When you've been out for a while, guys, the circuit overseer sounds like a fifth grader. It sounds like, like when you've come out of an altered reality, which is where the Watchtower puts you in an altered reality based on scripture. This is the truth. And, when you break out of all that mind control, when you look at it again and you see the intention of Watchtower to make you fearful. I heard all the scriptures, run the race with endurance that you may win the race. And he had all of these. I don't even remember them. Do you, Angela, some of the illustrations he was using?
No.
But they were corny. They were slow. It was all about Jehovah's name. It was all about,
Yeah,
you better, there's only one God and his name Jehovah, and you better worship him or else.
Yeah, same old, same old.
Same old, same
Man.
old. And I wanted to turn it off, but I felt like, maybe they were watching, and I thought, well, maybe I'll go in and, make something else. But I haven't done a follow-up. I don't think my Neil, if I had to bet, I don't think he's coming out.
No,
I
don't
think
so.
I am a big catch for him, big apostate, all the things that I've done in my life. If he can get me back, and I think there's a lot of pride. I tell you, what I was very sick of in there was the pride, the damn pride of these people. Every scripture, God's name Jehovah, and it was like, I don't know how to describe it. It was arrogance over scripture. He thinks he's so knowledgeable, don't he? He gets a kick out of going to all the barber shops and everywhere and reading them scriptures and saying, I'm going to challenge you here. I'm going to ask you some questions and then I'm going to answer them. And man, they're so proud of that little bit of knowledge that they have. Go ahead, Angela.
Well, there's the prophecy, the new thing that they're
Oh, the
focusing
new
on.
prophecy. Yes. You want me to tell them?
No, you.
So here's the new, I don't know, you might not call it a new prophecy. I call it a new prophecy because they've got to have a hook. They've got to have a way to keep their asses in. And the way they keep them in is the end is close, right? It's don't go anywhere. It's 2 years away. It's 3 years. It's right around the corner. It's when the next hurricane hits, So the new prophecy was my uncle says, have you looked at what was it called? The temperature scale.
Right.
Something like that. It's like the temperature calculator or something. And I was like, no, I haven't looked at the temperature calendar.
The carbon
calendar. And I said, no. And I said, what is the carbon calendar? And he says, well, that's the emissions, we're pumping in the air. And I said, okay, all right. So what about it? And he says, we only got 2 more years.
I thought it was 3 or 4.
It might have been 3 or 4.
I thought it was 3 or
but
4.
Just say it's 5. 5 more years, Neil, is all you got to hang on, according to the governing body.
I think it's 3 or 4 is what he said.
Yes, and the carbon, what is it called again?
I don't know, the carbon calendar.
Carbon calendar. And I was like, Oh, geez. How many more false prophecies can you have? The carbon calendar.
So once that date's up, we're all gonna die, right?
Yeah, but
And so,
what's interesting is what he thinks is they're telling him you're going to live. So he's 80.
ah,
So he's thinking I can last till 85.
so what's he thinking? We're gonna figure it out by then?
No, they've already figured it out.
Oh.
It's another carrot to say instead of 75, based on all the Bible prophecies or generation, now it's the carbon clock. The
Right.
carbon clock cannot be wrong.
But are we gonna clean it up, or is somebody gonna clean it? Because he
No,
wants.
no, no. Jehovah is going to put the ruin, those rooting the earth. That was the whole talk.
Ah.
Jehovah's going to put the ruin.
Those
So
are the
Jehovah's going to
worst.
step in based on
Ah.
75 generation prophecy, overlapping generation prophecy, the carbon clock. So anyway, wow.
Yeah, and also Dan brought up, just like he did at that convention that we went to. What was it, a year or two, 2 years ago? I can't remember. I think it was 2 years ago already. But anyway, this guy was just lying. Dan would bring up, well, what about the 1975 prophecy passing it? All these different things he'd bring up. And he'd go, never happened. Never happened. Well, Dan brought up the same things with his uncle, and he said the same thing. Never happened. We never said that. We all on and on.
I couldn't
Everything
believe
he
it.
denied and lied. And like, what in the world? How can they just bold faced lie?
Yeah,
And I just couldn't believe it. Like, what's wrong with you?
the guy at the assembly was an elder. I wanted to slap the shit out of him. I was like, who do you think you're kidding, you dumbass?
The
I
2 years ago one?
yeah. I mean, I lived
He-
through
he's
it. I
been there
told him
40
I went through
years.
the generation prophecy. I kind of tailed in after the 75. I mean, I sort of got serious about the kingdom halls, the truth. And so anyway, so I was there, 70, that generation prophecy, I was on top of it. This generation will by no means pass away until all these things
And Dan
occur,
quoted
including
that.
the great tribulation, 70 or 80 years from 1914.
And he quoted that again to his uncle Neil, and they both faced, nope,
And
never
it's
happened.
like the
Never happened.
Watchtower somehow distracted that false prophecy out of his brain.
Yeah.
He says, it
Locked
never
it
happened.
out.
I went, what the hell are you talking? I wanted to slap
It's
him.
even the same wording. It's not even like, well, I don't really remember that. It's the same wording exactly. Nope, never happened. It's like, whoa.
Same
How
thing.
do you guys come up with the same answer, the same attitude, the same forgetfulness, the same what lying? I don't know what
I'm
it
going to
is.
tell you what it's called.
What?
And never, ever forget it. It's called denial. It's the same shit when people go into Alcoholics Anonymous. The guy's running over people. He's drinking himself. He's sleeping out on the sidewalk. And you say, you might have a problem. He says, I don't have a problem drinking. Who are you talking to? It's the same with the witnesses. It's denial. They're in tremendous denial. They're denying reality. And guys, I'm going to tell you something. The beginning of denying reality is the beginning of compartmentalization and is the beginning of schizophrenia.
I agree.
It's the beginning.
100%.
There is a lot of schizophrenia in the
That's
in the
right.
Watchtower.
That's proven.
It's a split mind.
Mhm.
How can you say 75 never happened? How can you say the generation prophecy never happened? How can you say the overlapping generation didn't happen? What do you do with truth? I'll tell you what you do. You disconnect from it.
Man.
Just think about that. Your GPS says they lied their ass off. These are liars. What do you mean 75? What do you mean? You go, they're liars. And then Watchtower says, don't get into thinking. That's the devil. Don't get in too much of your mind. And so somehow they unplug from a grounded GPS and they unground. They unground from the gifts that God gave them. God gave them a right brain, a left brain, a heart, and all of that has been unplugged.
You know what I think's interesting?
What do you think?
Well, Dan and I, we've gone into places, it doesn't matter where, just any old religion, okay? And then you soon forget some of the bad things that you didn't like, some of the things that were wrong, that were abusive, and whatever. And then you go back and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot about this. It's like you want to not see the bad. And it's so hard because, when you're in bad relationships, it doesn't matter what kind it is. Um, it could be a workplace, but you soon and quickly, we're like this as human beings. We quickly forget the bad. We quickly forget, and then we go running back. And Dan and I have known a couple of good people who've gone running back recently into the witnesses. And it's like, what? Are you kidding me? After everything that we talked to and everything that we've discussed on even radio and wherever the podcast, and you're going back. What, are you kidding? But it's just because we don't want to remember the bad. We want to remember the good. And after a while, we just go running back. And then once you're in, you're like, oh man, I forgot. I forgot. Yeah, no, 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 no. This is not going to work. But you went through all this trouble just to get back. And then you have to remind yourself, oh yeah, this is why I left. Oh yeah, that's why I left. Oh, it's crazy, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah.
Same with this selective remembering.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Good way of saying
forgetfulness. It's
it.
like forgetting what was bad. And choosing not to think we've not done anything wrong. Be like a parent who says, "Oh, my kid could never do anything wrong." No, I don't believe that my kid would do that. No, they didn't do it. I'm sorry. I don't care if you saw them do it. I don't believe it. It's like that. It's like we just will not accept that the governing body could do anything wrong, or that the leadership could molest my child, or I don't know. We just don't want to think about that. We just want what we want, and we just go back. And it's like being abused and going back to your
Oh, good
abuser.
point.
It's identical to that.
Yeah.
But boy, it's easy to do, doesn't it, guys? Just to be honest. I mean, don't worry, Dan and I are not going to ever. It's not possible to go back to anything
No.
that was formed.
I have to restrain from saying what I want to say. I don't even want to break my uncle in two. I don't even want to take what he has away. It's all he's got. He's 81.
That's one thing I want to say about that whole experience that because I've been on most of the phone calls too for hours, and I'll pitch in my scriptures to kind of defend our position. But he's been so loving, and I'm like, wow, what happened? It's like, I don't know what happened to the man, but he's not the same man I met at Dan's mother's funeral many years
No.
ago now. How many years?
Right.
11, 12 years ago. He's a different guy completely, and I don't know what's happened to him, but he really truly has got real genuine love going on inside of his heart, it seems to me. And I don't know how this has happened.
I do.
Yeah, what?
Well, what I think Watchtower's done is given all the elders a Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Really?
I mean, I'm just joking, but I mean, I'm just saying, like they actually listen. They don't really hear you, but they listen.
That's true.
They sort of tune
At the
in and
door,
go,
you don't hear
uh-huh,
either.
that's what my uncle did. Uh-huh. But he doesn't hear anything. The
That's
Bible
right.
says they'd have ears that wouldn't hear and eyes that wouldn't
You're
see.
right, Dan.
And so there's just total brainwashing, a veil.
Like at the door when they knock, you guys knock. I'm not an ex Jehovah's Witness, right? But anyway, you guys knock on the door, and then people say this, and they're like, It's in one ear and out the other, isn't it? And you don't remember any of it because it's not the truth. So why even try to remember it? Why even try to? You just block it out and say, well, let me just bring up this scripture, and you just bypass it, and there's no going in. It's really interesting. How you can do that.
Yeah, and I said this to my Uncle Neil. We were having this heart-to-heart moment, and he's kind of like, "I love you, Danny. I love you guys." And I was like, "I love you too, Neil." And we're having this kind of love thing going on, right? And I said to Neil this to him straight up, and I hope it touched him. I hope it reached his heart. But I said, Neil, do you think the Watchtower was correct in telling you to cut me off for 40 years? Don't you think we could have chatted and talked and kicked things around and worked things out maybe and still been friends? He's telling me now how to paint cars and how to do this. And I'm like, do you think the Watchtower was right? And my theme to him is, do you think the Watchtower was right? Do you think the Watchtower was right telling you not to wear a beard all those years? Do you think the Watchtower was wrong when it said 75? Do you think I'm trying to break down that thing. And my final thing was to him, Neil, I don't follow men. I believe in God. I believe Jesus walked the earth. I believe all the same. I believe the same things you do.
That
except
for sure.
I don't follow men. I will never follow those men. I don't need those tutors. I told him that too. I said, doesn't the Bible say don't put your trust in nobles nor the sons of earthly men?
In whom no salvation
belongs. And here you guys, they dangle these carrots and you guys run and feed on them. It's almost like one of those dog tracks where they have the dogs and they have the carrot in front of them and they just, they're going as fast as they can, round and round and round and round. But guys, I honestly, when I saw him, and I've been out a long time, how long we've been out now? 22 years, 24 years. I see what brainwashing can do. And I want to say this, guys, it's innocent. He didn't mean to get brainwashed. He got in there with his dad. My dad got in there because he wanted to marry my mother, who was a Jehovah's Witness. My dad got into the Jehovah's Witnesses that way. It was innocence. And then you're told this. And I had this conversation with another guy the other day, but I won't go there. But I said, every religion says the Bible's the word of God, right? It's the word of God. So depending on who gets you first, listen to what I'm saying, guys. Depending on who gets a hold of you first and gives you their tapestry, like the Seventh-day Adventists, got to keep the Sabbath and keep it holy. I won't go there, Rick. I know you got to do something else, but everyone has a tapestry. And I just want to say this. If the witnesses get to you first and they say the Bible's unequivocally the word of God and God's name's Jehovah and this is not a Trinity, you're probably going to believe it for a long time until you've went through these false prophecies, but it's really no different anywhere else. And so anyway, that's all I want to say.
Yeah, no, we
Go
want to
ahead.
talk about the convention.
Oh yeah, did you want us to still talk? We got time, Rick?
Well, yeah, no. What we're gonna do? We're gonna talk a little about the convention. We got about a half hour. We've
Okay.
got Barbara. We got Barbara Anderson on with us with a friend.
Oh,
So
Good to have her back.
we're gonna
yay.
put her right. We're gonna put her right back in here with us. Hello, Barbara.
Oh,
Hello,
can't
Bob.
hear ya. She must be
Oh,
on
She
mute.
may be muted.
She might be muted.
okay. We'll see what's going on with Barbara. Let me see if I can kind of do it myself here.
I did it. I
There we
unmuted.
go.
There you go.
Can hear ya.
There you go, Barbara. So, anyways, Barbara, good to
I'm
see.
brilliant at this. Brilliant. I don't know one thing or another. If there wasn't this lady sitting next to me, we would have stayed mute.
All right, Barbara. So, why don't you tell us who that young lady is next to you?
No, I'm not going to do it. She's going to do it.
All right. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christina Malassa.
Well, hello, Dr. Christine. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I was an elder's wife, pioneer. I left about 4 years ago, and I work now as a naturopathic doctor, and I specialize in emotional health and healing and helping people to recover from trauma.
Wow. Well, that's quite
Really good.
Nice.
Really good.
that's quite a practice. Now, let me ask you: do Jehovah's Witnesses who leave the organization do they suffer trauma?
Absolutely. I have quite a few that come to see me, as well as people who are still in.
Isn't that amazing? Well, I'm glad you're there with Barbara tonight. I really am. That's wonderful to have you on there. Geez, you guys, you make a good duo. You make a good duo. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, she thinks like I do. I'm taking credit. I'm teasing here because this gal knows a lot I don't know. And that's why I asked her to appear here this evening at your invitation, Rick, to let me be back again. And I said, no, I'm not coming alone. I'm going to bring somebody who's got a brain.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the convention tonight. We got the Still Alive in 2025 convention of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. That's coming up in August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And boy, I can't believe it's overwhelming the amount of people that we got that are writing to me. I just kind of did this thing like on a whim. It goes back to in September of 2023, there was a protest in front of the White House. And a number of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses went down to the White House and they asked me if I'd go down with them to protest to see if we could get President Biden to listen to the message that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses had. Well, I knew it was going to fall on deaf ears. I mean, Biden didn't come out and say anything to us, but we were trying to get through to at least somebody so the government could start at least looking into the problem Jehovah's Witnesses have. So anyways, there was 226 people at that protest. Now, not all were protesting. They felt a little awkward. But after the protest was over, I said to the 226 people, hey, how would you like to have a convention? And they said, yes. So I started promoting it a year and a half ago. And let me tell you something, it's exploded. And as we all know, and I'll tell the audience here tonight, it's going to be in August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 3-day convention. Now, it's all over ChatGPT. Also in Spain, a movie company, a real movie company, not some guy with a video camera, a regular movie company from Spain is coming and going to film the convention, going to film the people coming to the convention, and there's a plot to the story. So we're really looking forward to that. So it's going to be an international film. It's going to be in Spanish and in English. So Barbara, I know you're in it, and I know you got a big part in it, and it's going to be quite fascinating. So the movie is going to actually start with the Six Screens convention. It's going to show people coming into the hotel. And I was talking to the producer and the director the other day, and what they want to do is they want to get 2 Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, if you're listening in here tonight, here's a good chance to be able to talk to some producers about your trek in the Watchtower. They'll put you in this movie. Now, what they're looking for is a person, it could be a man, woman, that was abused sexually when they were younger. Now, we do have a number already coming, but they wanted me to try to at least get as many as I possibly could. They said, Rick, talk about it on the radio program you do on Saturday night. So if there's anyone out there listening to this broadcast that has been sexually abused in the Watchtower, and you're coming to the convention, and I've already had people write me saying little bits and parts of the whole thing. But if you really want to come out, they would like to use you as like a main character in this film. They want to pick 2 people. They want to have them come in. They want to see them coming into the convention. And then they want to follow these people through the convention and see what they think about the camaraderie and experience the fellowship with other ex-witnesses. So this is what they're trying to achieve. And they're going to be working with these people through the whole movie. Well, not the whole movie, but at least that segment. So if you are a person that would like to do that, and you're coming to the 2025 Stay Alive Convention, by all means, write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. So that's a good thing. So I know, Barbara, you're coming, and I know that Dan and Angela Clark are coming, and we have so many others. Right now, we're up to 300 people. 300 people. Now, the arena, I checked out yesterday. I went to the arena, and they said, Rick, we can put 350 in here. I thought it was only 300 at first, but they said, no, we can fit 350. So that's a good sized crowd. And then for an overflow, we have a room adjacent to the main auditorium, and that room can hold another 200. But I don't know how many we're going to have. I feel safe. There'll at least be 300, but it could swell up to 500 people. This is a history-making event. This has never taken place before, and that's what really got the attention of this movie crew. Because what's happening right now, as I was going over my news today, there's a lot of people leaving organized religion, and that's one of the themes that this movie company is going to try to show. But there's focusing on the witnesses, but the witnesses aren't the only ones that are having people leave organized religion. So there's a lot of movies and documentaries being made about this very thing right now. So Barbara, you're coming, and I'd like to have you give your thoughts on it. Well, what would you tell the people out there listening in tonight, Barbara?
Well, I've met Eduardo through the internet, of course, and that is the producer's first name. And we've had some very interesting discussions. The theme that he is really centering on is about after the religion. What have you done with your life? Have you been traumatically hit by your past? Is that the way you spend the rest of your life, and you can't pull away from this organization that you left mentally? So that's what the speakers are encouraged to discuss. I'm hoping that Christina will be there. There are a number of people that are trying to make plans to come, and I think it's going to be the discussions will be very beneficial. So I can talk on this for an hour or two, but Rick, I want you to interact with us here, please.
All right. Yeah. We're going to have what we have coming. We have a number of speakers. Let me just kind of look at the convention schedule. I've been working on putting this together. So just to give people an idea that are listening in here tonight, we have a lot of speakers already, but we'll be getting quite a bit more. But on Friday morning, that's August 1st, we kick the program off at 9 a.m. with a musical interlude. So what will be there is we're going to have a band, and we're going to have an 8-piece band. And some of these band members are former Jehovah's Witnesses. But after they play for a half hour, we're going to have a greet and meet session. Now, what that will be is a chance for people who want to speak up and talk. We'll give them 5 to 10 minutes apiece, and they can register at the information desk who they would be. So, because I know we won't be able to get to everybody, but if they register when you come into the convention, register at the information desk and let them know there. My wife Susan's handling that you would like to speak up. So you'll have 5 to 10 minutes to tell us why you came to the convention and what your feelings are after leaving the Watchtower. So this is a great chance for all of us to revel, to be able to meet people with diverse tapestry, so to speak, people that have experienced the same things that we have experienced. And then at 2:00, yours truly is going to have to talk. We have a lunch break. Let me say that. We break for lunch at 12:00, and we go to lunch. We come back at 2:00. But we have a lot of different restaurants in the area. Of course, you can eat right there at the Hilton, but we're going to have a little shuttle, a 6-screen shuttle. We're going to have 2 vans there that'll shuttle people back and forth. But in walking distance is the Cracker Barrel, Circle K, Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, the Longhorn Steakhouse, Wendy's. It's all within walking distance. But if you don't feel like walking, we'll have the 2 shuttle buses taking you around to the different restaurants. Or if you have to go to the drugstore, or if you have to go to Walmart, for example, or whatever you want to do, we'll take you there. So then we come back at 2:00, and of course I give a talk. The name of my talk is No Fire Breathing Dragons. And that talk is going to be about when you leave the Watchtower, nobody's going to bite us. There's no dragons out there. And so you can go on with life without worrying about the Watchtower. At 2:45, we have former Jehovah's Witnesses, Joe and Fran Garino from Utica, New York. And Fran and Joe have expressed their feelings of the Watchtower organization and the many problems they have caused, not only in their life as far as all of their children shunning them, but also they talk about all the problems that they encountered talking with people. They were hosts on the 6 screens. They now are also on the Fixing My Faith network as well. And they're going to come on and tell you all about the meetups and how they're getting extra Jehovah's Witnesses together. So looking forward to that. And then we have a good friend of Barbara Anderson. His name is Tommy Geske. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Barbara. Is it Geske?
Yes.
Okay, Tommy Geske. He's a former Jehovah's Witness elder. I've spoke with him, and he's coming to the convention. He's all fired up. Yeah, he had big assignments at some of the conventions. He was involved in giving talks at regional conventions and circuit assemblies. And then, Barbara, tell us a little more about Tommy.
Tommy would be here this evening, but he's working, and he's from Texas. So, but he had a job to do. He fixes medical equipment, and so when that happens, he has to be there to repair it. So he's a good speaker. He's very, very earthy. That's what I like to say about him. And entertaining, and he has massive experiences. And hopefully Christina will be there because he hopes to interview Christina, who has had an extraordinary, interesting life. Not all of it was what you'd want to have in your life, but she's sure making up for it since she's out of the witnesses. But then all I can say about more about Tommy, he's been here to our house a number of times over the past few years. Joe really liked him very, very much, and so I did too. We're going to have a really a wonderful variety of speakers. I'm happy to say, and Rick is keeping some of those names secret right now. Rick asked me, are you going to ask me what I'm going to talk about, Rick? Because that's what you said you were going to ask me.
I'm going to come to your segment here momentarily.
All right. I can't wait here. I'm so anxious.
All right. Well, we're going to come to your segment. And then, former Jehovah's Witness, Larry John Wayne, he comes on, which will be Friday. He comes on at 3:45, and he's going to talk. Larry's been a host here on our program, but he has a lot to say on how he was shunned and how even his mother, father, how they died in a tragic accident, an auto accident. And that just happened a few years ago, and how he didn't have much feeling even when that happened, because his mother and father was so nasty and so difficult to deal with. But he's going to bring that all up, and I want you to hear it. It impressed me when he told his story here on the 6 screens. And then in the 4:15 hour, if all goes well, that's when Dan and Angela Clark, the people that you're looking at right there on the screen. So that's when they're going to have a talk.
Thank you,
They're going to have a 30-minute talk on their trek in the Watchtower and some of the things they encountered. Of course, Angela, she never was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, but she certainly works along with Dan very closely, and she was involved with the Herbert Armstrong group as well, which does a lot of the same things. Mm-hmm. So then we cut for dinner break, and we have a live musical interlude back at 6:30. And then we open up with, you got it, Barbara Anderson in person. No, let me play the role of announcer here, all right? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've been waiting for many, many months for this woman to appear on stage. Well, her name is Barbara Anderson.
Yuck.
So we got Barbara Anderson. Now, here's what she's going to do. We're going to have a desk up on the stage. There's going to be 4 people behind it. Barbara is going to be behind it, and she's going to have 3 other people there with her. Former Bethelite Gary Alt, former Jehovah's Witness Alan Smith, who worked very closely on a lot of technical problems with the Watchtower. And also, he's a professional entertainer. And now we also have J.W. Isaac. I have a hard time with his name. Carmen Nenny. How do you pronounce that name?
Sure.
Yeah. So he'll be there, and so that session will start. Barbara interviewing her friends, and then we'll be able to open that up in the last 10, 15 minutes so that people could ask questions. So that's your first assignment, Barbara, but you got another one. Can you wait for the other one? Okay. So now what we do, now at 7:45, we'll talk about some of the scandals. We got speakers. We still haven't got all the slots filled. But now Saturday morning, we're going to make some announcements on the safety for the attendees. We're going to give some information concerning restaurants, transportation, and highlighting some tips for experiencing different things in the area. Because Massachusetts, this is where the Revolutionary War started. And we're only 20 miles away from Lexington and Concord, where the first shot was heard around the world. So then at 9:45, we have a woman scheduled. Her name is Star Paul. She was a young Jehovah's Witness when she was the victim of child sex trafficking in the Watchtower. She's going to talk about that. She's been on our program. And then we move on. Then we have at 11:15 Saturday morning, we have Gary Cox. Now, Gary's going to be coming on here just a little while on our program to talk a little bit. Gary is a personal growth expert and life strategist. He is internationally recognized. He's internationally recognized as an expert in personal growth. He speaks to hundreds of thousands of people and countless organizations about improving their professional and personal lives. He also is the author, and he's a former Jehovah's Witness. And I have to tell you, Gary Cox, these 2 books he have really make sense for people who are leaving the Watchtower. One of the books he has is Make Your Thoughts Disappear. He also wrote a book, The Guide to Crushing Obstacles on the Path to Success, and even another book that really got everybody's attention, To Not Let Others. The title of the book is Not Let Others Rent Space in Your Head. Now that's interesting. So now we move on to lunch break, and then we have another musical interlude when we come back. And we have a former elder that will be appearing. He's from Columbus, Ohio. His name is Tony Patillo, and his son actually committed suicide because of the tactics and policies of the Watchtower on disfellowshipping. So that goes on, and then if all goes well, we have at 3:30, we have a woman named Quinea Bradshaw. She is involved with AI. She's the head AI instructor at a number of universities right now. And she knows a lot about AI, and she wants to talk about how AI is being used by the Watchtower. And then we have at 4 p.m. Now, Barbara, you know this lady coming on. This lady's name is Stephanie Lynn Carson, and she experienced child sex trafficking in the Watchtower. Stephanie testified in the Pennsylvania grand jury investigation into Watchtower's practice of covering up the crime of childhood sexual assault. And then they're going to have a 10-minute question and answer. Now, I'm going to tell you something about Stephanie, and I'm going to tell you we're going to get a lot of listeners. They're going to say, well, I don't really believe that sex trafficking takes place in the Watchtower. Well, I'll tell you what, to solidify and make Stephanie totally credible, we have a lawyer out of Florida. His name is Travis R. Walker, and he has his own law office. He specializes in a number of fields, but he works with many Jehovah's Witnesses that have been abused and have been sexually perverted acts have been taken on them. Let's go with that. And he's going to be there for questions and answers. He has a talk. So that's it. And then, of course, I just want to mention the other thing, too. At 7 p.m. Saturday night, we have Fritz Springmeier. Now, Fritz, he loves to talk about what he feels is going to happen. I like the way he presents things. I'm not totally on board with everything Fritz says, and you might not be either. But he's going to tell you about some things that are going on in the world right now. And he believes deeply that the Watchtower was involved in things that are just over the top. And he wrote the book. In fact, he's the leading expert in the world on the Illuminati. And he wrote the book, The Bloodlines of the Illuminati. And Fritz is going to be there in person. And then at 8 o'clock, if all goes well, I got it open. That is going to be the keynote, the big speech of the whole weekend. I have that open for a surprise guest. I'm not going to announce who it is, but that is open. And as we get closer to the convention, I'll reveal who that is. And then on Sunday, I'll just go through it very quickly. I'll just tell you that we do have one good speaker lined up right now. His name is Jay Hess. He was the former writer. He was a former writer. He was associated with the writing department of Brooklyn, and he's coming on, and he's going to talk the biggest false prophecies in the Watchtower. So that's Sunday. So that's it, Barbara. So there's quite the lineup, huh?
Well, I think you missed me.
Hey, Rick, when are you going to do that talent where different people sing and stuff?
Oh, right. I was just kind of playing around with Barbara a little bit.
You know what? I work on this. He should pay me. He should pay me for all I do. And this is the response I get. He misses my name even.
Well,
didn't even give me an ounce of credit. That's why I
well,
love him. I just love him. Rick, you're my kind of guy.
well, you're coming on, Barbara, and I didn't want to miss. I didn't want to. I was playing around with, we like to kid a little bit. But
Oh,
anyways, we got Barbara Anderson once again. We know that she was a farmer. Well, she was a witness from 1954 to 1997, and she was working in she was a researcher and writer at the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses from 1982 to 1992. And something went terribly wrong. Barbara uncovered a conflict that would derail her plans and change her life forever. Her unique story shines a bright light on the Watchtower JW.org policies that not only protect sexual predators, but unduly influence members to believe policies and beliefs of the Jehovah's Witnesses are Bible-based and inspired from God. So that's your talk, Barbara. Looking forward to that.
no, it isn't. That's not my talk.
Well, that's not your talk, but that's your intro. But tell the people what your talk's going to be.
Well, thanks for actually saying it. Okay, my talk is named Blame Game. We all know what a blame game is. Well, maybe the expression is not as popular today as it used to be. When you think everything is someone else's fault, you will suffer a lot. When you realize that everything springs only from yourself, you will learn both peace and joy. Guess who said that? Dalai Lama. And isn't that the truth? Blaming everybody else for your own problems. And so I discussed this. And what is the meaning of a blame game? And it's really a situation in which one party blames others for something bad or unfortunate. Rather than attempting to seek a solution, they're always blaming others. The act of blaming a person or group for something bad that has happened or that someone else has done, such as scapegoating. We know that word. What is scapegoating? The philosophy term for blaming others is scapegoating. This refers to the practice of unfairly blaming a person or group for problems or negative outcomes. It sounds like my talk is negative, but actually it isn't. It's positive. And I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to talk about another related term is external attribution. It describes the tendency to attribute one's own failures or negative outcomes to external factors rather than personal shortcomings. So everybody else is wrong, but you never blame yourself for what has happened to you. So yes, clearly there are cases in which a person is blameworthy and guilty of a crime. And in these situations, we have to acknowledge blame and responsibility. And that doesn't constitute a blame game. But there are many other times in life when we find ourselves on the blame game bandwagon. That's what we're all going to have to think about. When I was preparing this, I got a lot of thought about even myself.
Well,
So,
we're all looking forward, Barbara. It sounds good. Now, don't give too much away. Don't give too much.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't do that. I got like 10, 15 pages on this. So this was only half a page. But I want to tell you this. Listen for a little bit to Christina. She is the authority on so many things that we need to know about. And so accountability, I'm setting her up here.
Well, here's what we got now, and I love the fact we have Christine with us. We do have another guest that was invited on. So if Gary will give her, can you kind of do it to Christine?
2 minutes. That's all we need. 2 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, Gary. Yeah. All right. Go ahead. No, I wanted to speak, but I just wanted to let Gary know because he came on. We appreciate it. We had him lined up. So go ahead, Christine. Go ahead and give us a little time. Tell us. I'm sure Gary's giving us thumbs up. He says, "Yeah, let Christine talk." That's good. Thank you, Gary. All right, go ahead, Christine. I'm sorry. Yep.
Okay, sure. I think we can all agree that if we were part of the Watchtower and we have left, we have likely experienced some form of trauma. And trauma is something that I love this quote by Peter Levine because he specializes in this. And he explains how trauma lives inside of our bodies. And so the quote he said is, trauma is not what happened to us, but it's what we hold inside of us in the absence of an empathetic witness. And so that's what a lot of people, when they leave, that's what they're experiencing. They want to be heard and validated, and they want someone to be a witness to their pain and suffering. But if we stay in that for too long and we stay in victim mode, then we create our own suffering. So it's important that we, give ourselves self-validation, reach out to people like this. We have groups that give us support and to help us to move forward so we can thrive, because we were slaves, right? We want to thrive now and have this personal freedom, self-expression, and identity we could not have before. And so if we stay in that victim mode too long, we're robbing ourselves of that. But if we can process that trauma and reach out for the support, because we all need it, it can really help us to now become free. We become free and we can thrive and we can live like we never had the opportunity before.
That's just a little bit of what she's going to be talking about when Tommy interviews her. So everybody better tune in.
Well, no, in fact, I'm glad that that's going to happen, because I was just going to ask her, maybe we could even get her a little solo spot. Even.
Well,
yeah, I think because she has a lot to say. So
we're working on our project too. It's in the works, but it's really exciting to provide support, because the people that come to me and people who've left years and years ago are still suffering. They have no community and they don't know how or where to find it. And so that's sometimes people go back just for the community. And so I'm passionate about creating that for people and helping people have that as a resource and to provide support, for trauma, healing through trauma.
Well, excellent, Christine. So what we'll do is you and I will talk in the next week or so, and we can find you a little spot, because I like the way you speak. I like what you have to say. You can help a lot of people. Thank you, Christine. All right, let's go back to our position here. And anyways, okay, let me just bring up a little bit more on what's going on. Someone mentioned what's going on Saturday night. Saturday night, we are going to have a rockin' awesome night. Beginning at 8:30, we got an 8-piece band, like I say, and our first program is going to be Apostate's Got Talent. And we are going to be showing the talent that Apostate's got. We have a number of apostates lined up. That is, I say that as former Jehovah's Witnesses that have been lined up to sing. We got a comedian. We've got all kinds of talent. So by all means, that'll be great. And then also we're going to be giving awards. We have YouTube night. We're going to give awards to the activists in YouTube that have made a real difference exposing the Watchtower. So we're going to be giving awards to them, and authors and Facebook and social network posters who post in groups of all types that are doing everything they can to expose the Watchtower. So that's all going to happen Saturday night, and that'll go to about 11:30. And we're going to be playing music. We have, like I say, well, it's going to be wonderful. We're going to open up the dance floor. We're all going to dance. We're going to have a great time. So if you want to come to the convention, by all means, write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. And I'll mail you off the ticket, and you will see all the information that you will get. Will tell you all about the convention. So, Dan and Angela, would you like to say anything else tonight?
Say something? Yeah, I just want to say, Rick, I'm glad there's going to be some, this therapist there talking about healing. Because I got to say, man, I've seen so many people fall through the cracks coming out of Watchtower. They don't realize they're an alcoholic. I was one of them. I was in denial. I didn't realize you couldn't drink a case of beer every other day or a fifth every other day. And, so I had to quit alcohol. I had to quit a lot of things. I had to learn what a victim was. I got so many people got so pissed off when I did a talk on victim. He won't let us tell his story. He said we can't tell our story. I'm like, yeah, you can tell your story, but there's a point where it becomes a disease. It becomes a real problem. You are your story. You become the story. You're pulling the train behind you. So I had to learn these things. What the hell is a victim? What is a boundary? What is, setting boundary? What's codependency? Until you know these things, and this is what I liked what Barbara said, there's no future. There's no future. There's no, who's going to tell you these things? And I thank God there's a witness, because I know when I came out, 24 years ago, there was nobody. We were scared shitless of therapists. They were either Christian or they were, that's Babylon the Great, or they were, atheist. But the main thing they were is Satan. We were scared to death. If we go to them, they're going to, tell us wrong. They're trying to deceive us. So to have a witness there that understands that I know exactly where you were. I know the framework the Watchtower built around you, built to where you fail in life. The programming we had when we left, pigs returning to the mire. But until Rick, this is what I like about this thing. I love that there's gonna be dancing, fun, entertainment, stories, fellowship. We actually get to go to a convention and there not be a Bible there, being, fear Jehovah, fear, it's gonna be wonderful. And so, so it's so cool, but I think people don't know what they don't know. When you come out of there, you have no idea what a codependent, I'm codependent, or fear-based, I had 10 years of anger. I dreamt that I went to prison over and over. And I mean, I was a time bomb. I wished I had somebody to talk to about this that I could trust. And the lady's right. There's a point where you need validating, you need to be heard, you need to tell your story, you need to get it out, you need to be angry. But there's a fine line between crossing over into victimization and letting that pain run the rest of your life and run you in the ground, drink you in the ground, drug you in the ground. And that will probably be some of my talk. That, guys, you can have a beautiful life. In fact, you've never met you. You have never met yourself. You don't know who you are. You've been a program. You've been plugged into Watchtower. You don't know who you are. And so that's the beautiful thing of getting these hurts out, getting validated, and then you start to heal, and then you start to say, who the hell am I? Who am I? Why did God bring me here? What am I here? And it's beautiful. You start to unravel, you start to unfold, you start to blossom into something you never knew you were. Me and Angela read book after book after book. We got a movie coming. We have so many beautiful things we're doing in life. We were meant to be here. God knitted me together in the womb, and every man on this earth, God put into the womb. So we were intended here as a divine idea, as something wonderful, beautiful, and amazing to contribute to life. And I was so glad when I met that person. It's beautiful, and everyone is that person. So that's probably what I'll be sharing. It's what I always share. I watched my parents die under mind control. I watched my mother.
Well,
I watched most of my family die in mind control, and they never met them. My mother died saying Jehovah's going to kill me. My brother died saying Jehovah's going to kill me.
yeah.
Well, Dan and Angela, obviously it's a sad thing, and we're looking forward to seeing you. Dan, thank you for
They
show.
just never got to experience life, Rick. That's what bugs me. They died with their music inside them. They died under mind control. They died feeling Jehovah was angry with them.
Right.
They died feeling they didn't commit their purpose. They couldn't do enough shit for the organization. They couldn't go door to door enough. They didn't pioneer enough. They didn't do anything enough. My dad was, you didn't, Mel, you need to be home with your kids. Well, I got to work construction. I got a schizophrenic wife and 4 boys. What am I going to do? Well, Mr. Clark, you should be doing this. He died. My dad died the same way. Shame, fear, not doing enough. He gave up. He couldn't even get off the floor. And so I said, no, Watchtower is not going to be my last chapter. Watchtower can kiss my ass. And they're not going to be the last chapter of my book. And if I talk to people, I'm going to damn sure make sure they're not the last chapter in their book. And I'm going to explain to them these things. And I don't give a shit if people say, he won't let me tell. I want you to tell your story, heal. But I don't want you to become a victim. I don't want you to become a victim. You will go down. Anyway, that's it, guys.
Well, thank you, Dan. And we can understand. I mean, it's a very, a lot of people can get choked up over this. But thank you, Dan. It shows how harmful this organization is. Well, I just wanted to mention to people, too, that for those that are coming to the convention, they call me and the response is good. People are booking rooms. And they said, Rick, we're going to lower the rate. So now we got the Hilton Hotel. I talked to the manager yesterday. She says, Rick, we lowered the rates for you so more people can afford to come. Now, if you just book the rate, normally it's in the sky, friends. At a Hilton Hotel, I mean, they're a top chain. The price normally would be $275 for a room for one night. They got it down to $150. They got it down to $150 a night. I've been kind of pushing them a little bit, and I'm going to show you something. It's not only the $150 for the night, but take a look at this. I'm going to put it up here on the screen so you can see it. That there is a menu. Maybe you can't see it too good, but if everyone gets a meal. If you stay in a room, you get a meal. So husband and wife, they can go down to the Hilton Breakfast Bar. You're not going to get some Swiss Miss pudding or a Sara Lee croissant. You're actually going to get a $17 meal. If you walk in off the street, that's what they would charge you. So you're going to get a really good breakfast. So bear that in mind. So 100. Look I checked some other prices out. The Motel 6. I mean, does that compare with the Hilton? I mean, I checked that out. They want $138 there. So, come to the Hilton for $155. Plus, you're going to get breakfast for two. That's worth over $30. So, So come and be with us. Write me for the tickets. Write to jwworldnews@gmail.com. The tickets are free. You can get as many tickets as you want, but give me an email. Let me know you want them. I'll send them off to you. Thank you, Dan. Yes, we got someone on the line. Go ahead, you're on with us. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Thomas Hansett here in Lawrence, Kansas. Yeah, I was just curious, is Steve Hassan or Dwayne Mignani or Peter Gregerson, some of them fellows going to make it? I hope they can. I'd love to meet them.
Well, we got some really surprise guests for you, and there's a good chance you're going to be bumping into some of these guys. Okay, but I'm still.
Hey, Rick.
Great job on that rate, man. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah,
I'm very proud of you for that.
Well, all looks good. We get some really good guests. Yeah, yes, Dan and Angela.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably already thought of this, but if there's somebody that can't make it who's fairly big and you want to have them there, maybe you could set up a Zoom. If somebody's from another country or something, you probably already thought of that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm trying to bring Paul Grundy in from Australia. I put the invite out for him, and he couldn't make it. And but I do believe he will be coming on our internet meeting, on the internet, on our virtual meeting, as well as others. And even who is coming, from what I do understand as well, is Stephen Unthank. If he can't be here in person, we'll have him. So we still have a lot of slots. I didn't get into all of it, but in the next few weeks, as we get these speaker slots filled, I'll tell the audience what we got. So
some of these people are coming from places that are so far away, they're so expensive to fly here. And it's prohibitive for some to make the trip. If there is anybody out there who'd like to make a contribution to Six Screens specifically for travel, for some of the people that are coming from Europe or Australia, it would be most helpful for them.
Well, thank you, Barbara. We will certainly we will use that to the best for getting people here. And I did want to mention to people too that it's going to be really something that's history making. It's a history making event. but it's all going to be live streamed. So if you can't make it, don't be sitting there tonight going, oh my goodness, I'm going to miss this. We are going to have this live streamed. We're going to have, I've got a bunch of technicians that are coming with me. So as they're filming the movie, parts of it as well, we'll be live streaming the whole event. Even when we go on lunch break, we're going to have a person walking around, talking to people, asking them what they think. And it's going to be really a good event. So it's going to be all on live stream. Everyone's going to see everything. You're not going to miss a thing. And we'll be able to have you, because of this platform, StreamYard, people can ask us questions through this. So that's going to be wonderful. Well, thank you, Dan and Angela. Thank you, Barbara and Christine. And
Thank you, Rick.
well, appreciate it. So we got Gary Cox. Well, he is I'm going to tell you a little bit about Gary. So thank you guys. And thank you for coming on tonight. We're going to move right on now to Gary Cox. I've known Gary for a while, at least 20 years. Gary has a lot to talk about as well. And what's of interest here? Well, let me I got a little bio here. I want to put it up on the screen. Let me do that right now. Gary Cox made a real impression on me. In fact, Gary Cox is the reason why we're even doing this tonight. He gave me the idea. He came and visited me. I believe it was in 2000. I forget what year it was, but he came and he gave us the idea. He had a business, and he still has a business, and he had a conference call. Now, up till that time, if you had a telephone, you could bring 2 or 3 people on, but technology enabled you now to bring on 100 people. So he says, Rick, we're both ex-witnesses. Wouldn't that be a good idea because that's before StreamYard, that's before YouTube, nothing like that. So he says, we could have a conference call where people could call in and talk about their trek in the Watchtower. So I took his advice and we did it. And we've been doing it ever since. So he's really the man that gave us the idea to do this. So let's bring Gary on right now. Let's add him to the stage. Hello, Gary.
How are you, my friend?
So there you are. Count to 5 for me, Gary. I'm just going to adjust your mic a little.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can adjust mine as well if you need. And let me know if the lighting is too dark. It looks a little dark, but if it's okay, let me know.
Fine. If you want to go a little lighter, that's fine. But we can see you good. That's good. So, Gary, I'm so glad. Thank you very much for wanting to come on and be with us. Now, are you in Florida? Can I say that? Yeah.
I am.
All right. Well, very good. And we met on a couple of occasions. I know you're a great salesperson, and you help a lot of people. Tell us a little bit about what you do in life, Gary.
Yeah. Basically, what I do, Rick, is I show people how to rewire or reprogram themselves, and I show them how to do it very quickly. I was blessed I did about 3 years on Dr. Phil Show Doctors. They give me people who have been through years of therapy, and I claim non-arrogantly that I can do in one session what therapists often can't do in a year. And because of that, they brought me on for 3 years. And my attraction, obviously, to this is because I was in this friggin' cult as well for 40 plus years. So I know the suffering that's involved, and I look forward to attending your event, because if I can be involved in any way to help people remove some of that suffering, it's been said that, we hurt more with our thoughts. Nothing hurts us more than our thoughts. On the other hand, nothing heals us more than our thoughts. So if people learn how to do this, and they can do it quicker than they realize, and everybody that spoke earlier, Barbara, Christine, I think it was, and then was it Dan? That's exactly what we need here. So that's what I specialize in, and I do this corporately, and more so for sales organizations. I work with sales organizations, and I help their companies increase their sales. And the problem that I think we have in life is the problem that people have in their personal relationships and also in their finances stem from the things that were stuck in their emotional hard drive. And what do we have in our emotional hard drive? We have so much stuff. For those of you who don't know my story, I got married early as a JW. My wife and I, as she being a JW, we have a baby. Later on, she tells me it's not mine. Crazy crap. Then my father was murdered. My grandfather and stepfather died of cancer. Then, I was in this cult since I was born and raised in it. So there's a lot of trauma there. And the thing is if you don't understand this and know how to clean this up, it silently influences every decision you make. It influences how you feel about other people, birthdays, holidays, churches, sex, everything outside of the religion and inside of, religious thoughts. And what a lot of times we don't realize is because for those of you who, like myself, have been in it so long, so much of what you react to things are based on our programming. And we are the sum total of everything that we've experienced from the day that we were born from this very moment to this moment. And that means who brought us up, the religions that we were raised in, the movies that we watched, the books that we watched. And we need to get to a point in life when things happen to us that we make a conscious decision that says, okay, I will choose to allow this to program me negatively, or I'm going to choose to program me positively. Most people don't know that consciously, or at least are not consciously acutely aware enough to realize that, wait a minute, this emotion is going to program me. And this is why there's so much pain when we leave this organization. So that's it in a somewhat of a bigger nutshell. Did I lose you, Rick, or are you going to keep going?
Sorry, Gary, I had that muted for a second. Maybe you could come. Just trying to adjust the sound. Are you close to your microphone?
Tell me what you need, and I can switch microphones. I can increase. I have several microphones. Tell me what you need.
Right there when you're talking. That's better. That's better. Yep.
Okay, let me bring it up a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So just so we can hear a little bit better.
Yep. No worries. That better? That better?
Count to 5 for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That better?
Yeah, that's better. Yep. Okay. Good. That's very good. So what I was thinking here, Gary, is in terms of course, you instruct business people and you instruct them how to, work better, sell more products, be better business people. Now you can carry that over into the witness world. Well, what would be I know you've written books on so many things concerning how people can help themselves. In fact, that one particular book that you have, and the one concerning renting space in your head, that gets a lot of attention, because when you stop and think about it, we have all had the Watchtower rent space in our head. So how would you go about explaining some of the little techniques you would use for a person to get that stinking thinking out of their head?
Well, one of the biggest things is to think about, you can't change what you don't acknowledge. And it's so easy for us, and we spoke about it earlier, I heard them talking about it earlier, it's so easy to blame. It's very easy to blame. And there has to come a point in time in your life that you stop blaming. Because if you don't stop blaming, you drink your own poison. And when you make a conscious decision to move on, then you figure out, what do I need to do to move on? So one of the biggest things that we have to change is our brain will validate all our beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. This is a life-changing statement. Let me repeat it. Your brain will validate all of your beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. So what happens now is when we leave the cult, and this is not to say that this is not an easy thing. I know that. So when we leave the cult, the ripple effects are very long lasting, depending obviously to how long you're in it. The longer you're in it, the more long lasting it's going to be. So when we leave and we have some pain in our life, if we're not careful, we'll immediately associate it to the cult or the pain that we got from there. And then what our brain will do is we'll validate this constantly. And when that happens, you stay in the hamster wheel and you don't get out. So this is where your thoughts will hurt you more than anything, but at the other point, it'll heal you more than anything. So there's an awareness there, and a lot of times it's hard for us to not want to blame them. I mean, let's look at it logically. It's easy to do that. Look at the destruction and the pain that it's caused. It's massive. I mean, just massive. So I think that's one of the biggest things, and that validation will create a story in you that you have to change. So the next thing is figure out what's the next move. You know, what do we do next? And when you're stuck in this cycle of an old story, you have to get out of that cycle. And that becomes very difficult because we've been programmed to think a certain way for so long. One of the things that I did when I left, the thing that I did is I went to a church. And the reason why most don't go to churches right after they leave is because of our programming, right? It's Christendom, blah, blah, blah. So I had to create a new thought process when I went to a church. I knew going into a church, I'm certainly not going to agree with them. There's no question about it. Nor did I agree with all the JW bullcrap either. So I would go to a church and I would be very cautious about being overcritical. You know, program be so critical. We're right, everybody's wrong. So when I went into the churches, before I went in, I would say to myself, I know I'm not going to agree with it, but I also didn't agree with their BS either. So what's the difference? And I used and I did things like that purposely to program myself. Unfortunately, a lot of people, when they leave, you know, they do the drugs and the alcohol. I'm originally from Jamaica. I've never done a drug in my life. So if I want to give the cult some credit, which I even hate to even admit to doing that, it's probably because of that. But anyway, so those are some of the steps that we need to make some changes. And then, you know, what kind of lifestyle changes can you make? And I think the problem that we have is that we all want to have some type of a pity party from time to time. And if you're not careful, you will personally create significance from your pain. And that becomes so important to you that you have to tell that story. Now, I tell my story tons of time because, you know, I'm on TV and I do speaking engagements. So I tell my story in that, but it's how you tell your story. I don't tell my story, you know, my wife left me and I was in this occult. I don't tell my story that way. I tell my story to let people know that whatever pain you've been through, though my pain may be different from yours, I relate to it. And then let me show you some of the things that I did and do to help eliminate some of that emotional pain and suffering. And, you know, there's a statement that sticks in my head constantly that I share with people that nothing, and I repeat, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So there are some people who left the cult and having a blast with it and glad they did is the best thing that ever happened to them. I think all of us can agree to that, but that doesn't mean we don't feel the pain. So if we can learn to rework the way we look at things, and it's not just changing your story. You have to change your story and believe the story. For example, if I say I can't, and somebody comes along and says, say you can, I can say I can till I'm blue in the face, but if I still believe I can't, then I can't. So the first thing is, what would your new story be if you detached emotionally from the cult and the ripple effect? What would your new story be? That I am free, I can do what I want, I deserve to be happy. I still have a problem with that. I'm so conditioned to be, you know, for you to be doing the right thing. If you're suffering, then that's your clue that you're doing the right best thing, you know? So these are things that I'm constantly, you know, even though I've been out, 20 years now or so, but remember, you know, you've been in this for 40 some odd years, every single day. I mean, it was so detrimental when I left, and I chose to leave, that I was so programmed, and maybe some of you can relate to this, that I literally did not know for nearly 6 months automatically what the days of the week were, because I was so programmed with the Monday meeting and the Wednesday meeting and the Saturday service and then Sunday. So now all of a sudden I don't have any of that. I cannot tell you how many times I'd have to look at the calendar to remind myself what day it is, because I didn't have that programming. So those are just some of the things. I mean, if I get to do more, with you later, I'll go into detail on strategies that I can share that can instantly get people off of medication. I worked with people who've been on medication for years, and in one session, not that I recommend it, but in one session, they're off of medication. I mean, I personally do no medication. I don't do alcohol. I don't do drugs. And a lot of reasons why we do those things is, and why people commit suicide and things like that. If somebody comes to me inside or outside of the cult, and they know somebody closely that committed suicide, my first question to them is, what was their pain? And, there's an expression that maybe you've heard, and it's called burn the boats. And what burn the boats means is, if it actually came from a gentleman from 1491. His name was Hernan, and he left Cuba with, I believe it was 11 ships or something like that, to go to Mexico to win over Mexico and New Mexico area. And he got to the shores and they were fighting, and he told his people, they actually told him to sink the boats. And the reason he said that is, if you sink the boats, you cannot turn back. You have no choice but to fight. So I have chosen not to do drugs. I mean, I might have a drink once in a blue moon, not to do any of those things, because emotionally I get tough. I burned the boats. I have no choice now but to mentally figure it out. And when I figure it out, I'm stronger and stronger. But if I have something that I have to go to alcohol or medication because I can't handle things, not to say it's wrong to have medication. I believe, especially in the early stages, that's possibly beneficial and helpful. But I want people to learn to burn the boats. And when you learn to burn the boats, there's no turning around. You have to figure out how to walk through yourself and learn how to play games with your mind instead of your mind playing games with you.
Well, I'll tell you, Gary, you make an impression. I'm looking here on YouTube. Boy, I'll tell you what, the retention rate has been phenomenal. They love what you're saying. They really are connecting with what you are saying. And of course, you'll be bringing more of that up at the convention. Now, if someone would like to say hello to Gary, we can open up the lines. I had to.
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay, that's
Let me ask you this, Rick. If you're opening up the lines, are you able to bring, because I'm happy to help somebody right now and give you an idea of how I don't know if I'll have time to do an actual intervention, but this is what I call this sometimes. But I'd rather that, because the reason I want to see them is because I can read the person and it'll enable me to work with them better. But if that's a possibility, I'm happy to take that up. If not, a phone over the phone will work as well. But video would be way better if somebody wants some actual help.
Okay, hold on, King of Dots. So what we'll do is, this is King of Dots, Gary. He's from Ohio, and he's a regular caller into the program.
My name is Gary, and I'm from Ohio too, by the way.
All right, well, that's good, Gary. I didn't know that was your name, so thank you for sharing that with us. We call him King of Dots on here. But if you have a simplified question for Gary, it's hard for him to really do like a one-on-one with you, but he can get a general idea of what your thoughts are. What would you like to ask Gary?
Well, Gary will ask Gary, but I just want to compliment you, Gary. You are the sharpest tool in the shed currently, next to Rick Farron, of course. But my question would be, when did you actually see the light? Can you pinpoint that moment? Because I left in 2004. I didn't get this fellowship. It took me like 10 years to actually see the light.
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I think the big eye-opener for me was the Revelation book. When it came out, what was it, 6 months later, they came out with another excerpt nearly as thick as the book of all the errors or the changes. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, we're supposed to tell people to believe this, and then 6 months later, we got to back up, it's all wrong. And I remember having a conversation. I actually, my ex-wife, because when I left, I chose to leave the cult all at one time, and it was major. But anyway, so her family were the ones in charge of the Central Florida Assembly Hall. So I got to, eat and have meals with all the governing body and whatnot. And I said something to her. I said, we have this belief that we're not supposed to celebrate birthdays because 2 people in the Bible were murdered, so we're supposed to assume that birthdays are bad. And I said, if you took a person that had a graduation party and you gave them a cake, you don't put happy birthday on it, it's the exact same cake, everybody comes and gives them gifts. Why isn't that idol worship? That doesn't make any sense to me. Bottom line is, if you believe a birthday party is idol worship, so then is a graduation party. Period. End of story. Let's just not be stupid about it. And that just started bothering me. And one day, our marriage was falling apart to begin with because, God, quote unquote, the organization was her God. And I remember sitting down one day having a discussion with her, and I never thought in a million years that I'd ever say the word divorce, ever. Because that's not, the end of your tunnel in the cult or in a lot of Christian religions. So I said, do you realize if we continue on this road that this could end up in divorce? And then she gets a phone call shortly after that from her mother that says, we're the only one at the Kingdom Hall cleaning. And she felt so bad. And I said, so what are you going to do? So she actually turned around and walked out that door to clean the Kingdom Hall. And I said, I can't live like this anymore. And I felt very settled there. I remember one time thinking about being on my bed, slitting my wrist and having a bucket just so the blood couldn't go in there so it wouldn't, be a mess. And I just couldn't live like that anymore. I wish I would have planned it a lot better because, man, it put me $350,000 in debt, like right off the bat. It was not pretty. But it is what it is. But those were the things that started throwing, a lot of thoughts in my face. And then, the constant hypocrisy. All religions, all of us are hypocritical to some degree. But to be the chosen people, I just couldn't buy it. It was just too much. So I just made the decision and pulled the trigger.
Well, Gary, I'll tell you, that's quite a story. So you actually did get to the point that you didn't care if you're going to live or die.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. And so what the decision was for me, I said to myself, I'm going to say it. I could either commit suicide and be dead or incredibly unhappy, or God can kill me after I leave, but at least I'll be happier. That was the reasoning.
Well, I remember how we even met. And I did a YouTube video in front of the Kingdom Hall here in Wilmington, Massachusetts.
I remember that.
And it was all about me being disfellowshipped from this very hall.
Yeah.
And I remember you got a hold of me on YouTube, and you gave me a telephone number. We connected, and you said, I'd like to come up there and be with you. He says, you told me you were just disfellowshipped and the pain that you have been going through. And you said, geez, I want to go up there and talk to Rick. So we spent the weekend together. And I'll tell you what, Gary, you were a source of inspiration to me too. I didn't think my daughter, she was the one that came up with putting that on YouTube. At the time, YouTube, it wasn't even YouTube. It was just getting going. They just bought that from 2 fellas. And it was.
It's funny that you say that. Once you say that, I now remember seeing that video so distinctly. I didn't even remember that until you said that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So she said, Dad, go on YouTube and you'll connect with the ex-witnesses. That YouTube video did 1 million hits. 1 million hits. Yeah. There was only 5 of us at the time on YouTube. Today, there's hundreds, Gary. They're all out
when
there.
When I post a video about the cult on YouTube, it's the highest videos that I get. I get tens of thousands of videos. It's crazy compared to anything else I post.
Isn't that something? Huh? So even I'll tell you what, even Google, I did a search on that a while back. What cult gets the most search? And by far, Jehovah's Witnesses, more than the Mormons, more than Scientology. And you wonder, why is that? It's because of the adverse effects these guys have put into us, the stinking thinking. So, well, Gary, it's so amazing that you have so much to share. And I want you really to make it. I know you're going to come, and we really appreciate you coming to the convention. But when you do come to the convention and someone has any issues that they're really struggling with, you'll be more than glad to talk to them one-on-one, right?
Yes, I'm setting myself to try to spend at least 2 days there with you and everybody. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, if there's some time, maybe I'll do some live interventions for somebody that's going through massive pain. It's interesting to watch, and obviously just watching you can learn quite a bit as well. So we could talk about that as we get closer.
Yeah, and very good, because what it is, I got your schedule right before noon on Saturday. So you have right before noon, then we can meet at noon. And of course, anyone wants to speak with you, they'll be able to contact you and be there with you. Well, Gary, I know you came on tonight kind of last minute. I really appreciate you doing that. I really do. I want you to know that all of us appreciate your presence. Did someone else?
And I have more time if you need, so whatever your schedule permits tonight.
Okay, so we do have some more callers. It looks like we do have. Michael King. Michael King, come on.
And Gary, thank you for your question too.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, all I can say is, wow, what a story, Gary. I sit here and listen, my mouth dropped open. I just had a few questions. I wonder if you could answer them for me. What part of Florida? What part of Florida? Orlando?
I'm west of Orlando, between Tampa and Orlando, Lakeland.
Did you ever know a pro golfer that was a Jehovah's Witness?
Repeat the name?
No, I'd say years ago.
What was the name?
I don't like to say it, but I just want to know if you knew a pro golfer. He was pretty well known.
Oh, a pro golfer. Yeah. No, I knew a pro baseball player who was in it. I think they're still in it.
Yeah, Lou Whitaker, by any chance?
Lou.
Okay. Well, then my next question would be: so, have you come to a faith of Jesus Christ, or how's your faith in the Word now?
That's a very good question. So, I haven't been to church in a while. I thought about going last week. I do believe. I tell people I use Christian principles to guide me. I believe in God. Call him what you want. I believe in Jesus Christ. I didn't go, like as you probably know, when some people leave, they go atheist now, and that's their way of rebelling or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't read my Bible daily or anything like that. I'm at the point. My mindset is, so much of it is up to interpretation. I'm just tired of it. I mean, I have one guy that I know very, very well. He's a Seventh-day Adventist. And of course, if you don't do your Sabbath from Friday to Saturday, you're not doing the right thing. And I know another guy that I would say he's one of the most godly people I've ever met. He reads his Bible at 6 o'clock every single morning. He thinks we both know the same guy. He thinks that's absolute hogwash. So, I don't get involved in it. I'm just tired of it because, I can read one scripture, as you well know. JWs have their thing and 50 other people have their thing. So I'm a firm believer in just doing as much as I can to be happy, but also doing very, very good to other people and, the golden rule and whatnot. But other than that, that's where I'm at. I have so many people tell me that I need to be saved. But the sad thing is, you probably know, when you meet, which makes dating incredibly difficult for me, if it's somebody who's a quote unquote Christian, that, they have their interpretations. And, when people are stuck in their interpretations, I I understand that there's several ways to look at things, and I'm blessed to have been in the cult. I say that very, very loosely, because I understand perceptions so well now, more so than I've ever understood, because now I understand how smart people can believe stupid things, because all of us were part of that. So I'm just very open-minded now, and I'm very impartial to as many beliefs as possible. So one of the things I teach people is don't believe everything you believe.
Yeah. You know, and it's amazing that please don't, yeah, please don't say that. But when I was listening to you, you said that I had the same thing where I rebelled against God completely.
Sure.
I didn't even want any part of God, or actually, and I started to lead a real immoral life. I did things I'd never do before.
Right.
And it took about 10 years. I said I went through 10 years of hell, but
yeah,
I only came back to the true belief of Jesus Christ himself.
But you know, that's unfortunately the ripple effect of the pain that we're in. I mean, it's a normal thing to do. It's man, you know it, you understand it.
Yes, I do. And that's why I enjoyed your story so much. I know other people want to talk, but I really enjoyed listening to you, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much, Michael, and hopefully we get to meet someday soon.
Yes, I love that. Thank you.
Keep up the good work, my friend. Stay blessed.
602, you're on with us. 602, go ahead.
Hey, Rick, is that me? Hey, Rick, hey, what a beautiful caller. I mean, just great stuff. And when people go through all of these problems when they leave Watchtower, my brother Jesse and I say that it's because Watchtower is a very vindictive organization. They want to hurt you when you leave, and we're firm believers in that. And we press to them for that too. But I was interested, maybe call me crazy. Maybe you can, I'm kind of crazy, but I remember when I learned the truth about the truth, when I learned TAT, it was real simple for me. I remember because it was during the memorial season, and I remember being by myself in the kitchen, lights off, and I just ate from the bread and the wine. And then I said to myself, it's showtime. I knew, and this is the thing I was going to ask him, I instinctively knew that everything that was going to happen to me already happened to billions of people that lived before me. So what I understood was that I'm not like special. My mom would always say, Mom, did anybody call me? She was, oh, you're not that important. You know, she's like trying to bring me down to earth. And a lot of times, like when we're talking about, you know, crying and you know, having that self-pity is delicious. It feels good, but it's also toxic, you know. But I knew that, hey, everything so whether or not I believe in the Bible or not, those Bible stories are true. They're going to want to chop off my head. They're going to want to hang me on a stake. They're going to want to hurt me.
Yeah.
I left. And so I instinctively said, it's showtime. Like, come on, let's get with the program. So I think that helped me not feel bad about what was going to happen.
Good. And did you have a question as well?
The what?
Did you have a question as well?
No, I'm just saying that when people just realize that, hey, this story is not unique. This has been happening since the beginning of time. That should set you up for success. You're like, well, hold on a minute. If this has been happening since the beginning of time, and I've been warned, then it shouldn't be very hard to get out of this Jehovah's Witness pain that we all go through.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand the logic of that, but the problem with that is we have emotions set up. That's why it's so easy to give people advice and sometimes not take our own advice, because when we're giving advice to somebody, we're not connected to the emotions, whether they be positive or negative. So I think those who have been in it longer have it harder because they've created so much emotional attachment. It's like the difference between somebody who loses a spouse that's been married 1 year compared to somebody who's been married for 40 years. It's a huge difference in emotional connection.
I see.
But in light of what you're saying, and I think Dan or somebody, maybe it was Christine, was saying something earlier. We do have to get to a point, because when you leave, whether like myself, you choose to leave or you're disfellowshipped or whatever it is, depending on the depth of the pain, you still have to grieve. But then we have to get to the point where we say, okay, and everybody is different, but I think we shouldn't delay it, which is the human tendency to. We have to get to the point where we draw that line and say, all right, now I'm in move on mode. What does that look like? And that's where people, I think, take a little longer than they should, because when you're not in move on mode, and you have to be careful when you're helping other people, because if we don't structure it well, we're going to come across as if we're not sympathetic. And that can be a problem as well. So it gets, as you know, I mean, it's touchy, because there's a lot of pain attached to leaving and the things that we experienced, and no longer having a family or having friends or whatever the particular pain is for each individual one. I mean, we understand them as a whole together, that's for sure.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, maybe I need to get more into my touchy-feely side.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you do, because for guys, I mean, men think first and feel second. Women feel first and think second. So when I go through problems, I go to a woman before I go to a man. Why? Because if I go to a woman, she's more nurturing. She will listen. Her job is not to give me advice. That's not the first thing they go to. The first thing they go to is nurturing and caring. You go to a man, it's like, I recently went to a friend of mine, and then I said, why am I even coming to you? You're trying to fix me. I'm not here to be fixed. I'm wanting a soundboard, not a bouncing board. There's a difference. There's times I want a bouncing board, which means I got to throw something at you. Can you give me some suggestions, ideas, or advice? But if I'm going to be, and that's why when people come to me with something deep, I say to them, what do you want here? You want a soundboard or you want a bouncing board? And the feminine part is the soundboard. The masculine part is the bouncing board. So that's where men, in fact, that's where I have a problem with the elders. It's just this way and that way. This is the way it is. There's no understanding. I remember one day, I hope I'm not getting off the subject too much, but it's the same area. I remember one day a lady who was in the cult, her name was Gail. She had been raped 4 times in her life. And I remember one day, me and my wife at the time, we went to her house and we told her, you're getting out of this house. And we stood there and we waited for her to go into her room, change clothes, and we literally nearly pulled her out of the house so she could get out and be around people. And I remember the elders talking to me, because every time I'd be on TV, I'd have to be going in the back room and all that bull crap, talking to me like, I shouldn't be involved. What do you mean you shouldn't be involved? You have a woman that's been raped 4 times in her life, and she's depressed and possibly suicidal, and you're trying to tell me that I shouldn't have got involved? There's just crap like that. So this is where our women just shine. So yeah, you'll have to balance that. It's not easy to do as a guy. It's just not easy to do. So that's where, as men, we have to get into our feminine side a little bit.
No, I agree with you 100%. No, thank you.
Yeah, great talking to you, and thanks for sharing that. Good stuff.
Well, Gary, I tell you what, I mean, it's really amazing. Did you want to say something? Who wants to come on? You want to come on? Let's go to 720. 720. Come on.
720. What's up?
Hey, it's Dan. Yeah, I had a question for you, Gary. I know when I was coming out, one of the biggest things that I had to work through, and I want to ask you if you address this when you work with people, one of the things I had to address was scripture, because one of the things I was told was that the Bible's unequivocally the Word of God. Every word was, So when I left, I was like, well, God's name is Jehovah, Psalms 83:18. Well, we don't take blood. It says don't take blood. I literally had, I had a lady come over my house and walk me through those scriptures. She's like, well, I noticed you say Jehovah a lot. Do you think God needs to be called by his first name? And how do you think, Jehovah's Witnesses have fared? Because they know the name Jehovah. They've done, false doctrines. And so that eliminated the name Jehovah as being all important. And so I was like set free from that, but I couldn't go into any other building, any other church, because they preached Jesus. And so the question I wanted to ask you, Gary, was I was set free from those hooks. The hooks are embedded scriptures, a lot of them that you think. It's not all fear, but it's embedded. We don't take blood. Well, have you ever read the blood doctrine? The lady told me. She brings over all these books, says none of these Bibles say good health to you. It's just your Bible. It's a way of saying farewell. She said, do you want to read the scripture and see what it really says? So we literally went through my hooks. My hooks were blood and my hooks were Jehovah's name.
Yeah.
When I got free with them, I could fly. I was like, oh my God, it wasn't that. I made this. So I was wondering if you work with people with those hooks, like when you talk to them. The lady that worked with me tried to identify where I was hooked. And then she came over and did this stuff with me, and it was really beautiful. So do you do some of that, Gary?
Yeah, basically, I refer to those as triggers. We all have triggers. So the trigger for you was the name Jehovah. The trigger for you was the blood. The trigger could be, not going to a church, but absolutely. And basically, ultimately, those are associations that we've created, that we've been programmed to believe as true or not true, whatever the particular doctrine is. So, yeah, no question about it, because that's the part of the programming that has to be untangled. If we're not untangled from it, then we're constantly caught up into it, and we can't make change at that point.
Yeah, that's the first thing I ask people is, what did you do with all your programming? Did you just bury it? Did you tuck it away? Are you outside living in duality? Are you living, I'm free, but I'm mentally in? A lot of them don't talk about being out, but mentally in. So you still, my brothers, I know so many witnesses right now, Gary, they're out physically, but they're just as much a Jehovah's Witness today as they were when they were in. So
well, here's where I'm sympathetic to people like that, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because you want them to be out. But, I mean, stop and think about the price that somebody has to pay. That's why, I'm cautious about trying to get somebody out in an actual conversation unless they're really open-minded to listen, because the price is huge. I mean, stop and think about it. You're going to lose everything. Now, I've heard they've, loosened things up a little bit, but whatever. But it's still a huge price to pay. And I remember people saying to me, I had one person who left, and she said to me, why don't you just go back, get back in, and then once you get back in, never go and see him again? Because to me, that's living a lie. I don't want to live a lie. I'm not going to live a lie. I'm going to say, look, this is BS. Here's my letter. I'm out of here. I'm not going to tell you what your doctrines are that I don't believe, that are so stupid, because you're not going to believe me anyway. So I said, I'm no longer to be recognized as a Jehovah's Witness. Boom, goodbye. Here's my letter. So, yeah, you just have to understand that the price is huge. I mean, you take the average person, and this is also why the average person, and this is why a group like this is so good, because I don't look at this as a support group of everybody's crying and whatnot. I love the attitude I've been hearing from the moment I got on. But the whole idea is when you have nobody to turn to that doesn't understand what we're going through, you feel lonelier and lonelier. And I know there's just people that if I have problems on certain things, they can't even conceptualize it. That's like a woman trying to tell me what it feels like to have a baby, and I can tell her, oh, exactly, I understand your pain. It's just virtually impossible. So that's why, being around people like ourselves is so good. This is just as healing for me as it is for anybody that might be listening that's feeling, something positive from it. So I encourage you to be careful who you go to for understanding, because a person who's never been through what we've been through, it's that much more frustrating. In fact, it pisses me off, and I've learned not to go to anybody who doesn't understand, because they're going to come back with stuff that makes no sense because they don't get it. So I'm cautious about who I go to. I have specific people in my life that if I have a problem in my business, I know who to go to. If I have problems emotionally where I need to talk to somebody, I go to a different person. So those are strategic for my mental health.
That's really good, Gary, because I'll tell you, people can make you feel like shit. People are like, well, aren't you smarter than that? I thought you were smarter than that. How long have you spent in there? 40 years? And that dumbass called. And I'm like, yeah. You have a higher, and it's like they'll beat the hell out of you. So
yeah.
like you say, you got to go to somebody that understands. And I'm going to be honest with you, Gary. You've probably done this. I've told people go back that didn't have the infrastructure.
I have. Yep.
You know, when she was dying, I said, Mom, I didn't leave Jehovah. I just left the man there. But there's some people that leave and do horrible things. I've told my brother, you need to go back. You know, he never really left. But I said, you know, you need to go to the meeting today. He was so screwed up. You know, I say that, you know, with kindness. But some people don't have the faculties to sort things out, to lose their infrastructure, to lose their you know, Jehovah, the organization. You know, it's like you said, it's a dangerous thing. You got to be pretty insightful to help people. But thank you, Gary. Thank you.
Yeah, and then one other thought on that. You know, people ask me, and you kind of alluded it to a little bit. What do I believe? And you know what? There's some things that I don't know what to believe, and I'm okay with that, because the other option was believe what I was told. Everything that I was told, believe it. If I didn't know what to believe, I'd have to look it up and say, oh, this is how I'm supposed to believe. I'm okay now knowing that I don't know what to believe, and that will never change. I'm okay with that. I'm totally fine with that. If not, then let me just go to a cult and let them tell me what to believe, and that's the way it should be. And I'm done with that.
Yes, and I think it's pretty arrogant to ask people, because we've got to sort it out ourselves. And there shouldn't be any judgment about whether we're Christian, not Christian, spiritual, whatever.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be somebody that comes on as the authority, because now you sound like another Jehovah's Witness. Do you believe? You know, it's really nobody's business, because trust me, Gary, I've had people that wanted me to be a Seventh-day Adventist like you. I've had people that wanted me to the Worldwide Church of God, and they've hated me. They said I've sold Angela away. I've ruined her life. They've even tried to get me divorced. It's the same.
Believe it.
And I'm like, I'm going to believe what I want to believe. I'm going to unfold when I unfold, and I can be in the mystery too. And I've also said this, Gary, why do you want to know what I believe? So we can draw swords and fight like we used to do when we were Jehovah's Witnesses? Oh, you don't believe that? You believe? It's like, who gives a shit? My beliefs are going to change, and I'm going to be open and expansive, and I'm going to learn. I've been in boxes like you believe too. But anyway, Angela wants to come, Gary.
That's good. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you, Gary. And this is Angela, Dan's wife. But I'm really excited that you're going to be offering your services. That other lady that was with Barbara Anderson tonight, I hope she goes to the conference too, because wouldn't that be great if people could, coming there to real life people, have people that they can bounce thoughts, ideas, concerns, fears off of, and have them say, I get you. I really get you, and you're not crazy, and I understand how you got into that, and why you fear that, and you're not crazy. Instead of being accused of, are you so stupid that you got into that cult? You know, why didn't you steer clear of it? It's like, hello, man was born into it. What do you expect? It's how he was trained. It's like, if you're born a Buddhist, you're going to be a Buddhist. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just nice to have somebody validate you. It's so important. But to go to the worldly people a lot of the time, well, first of all, the Watchtower tells you should never do such a thing. It's the world empire, false religions, and all that. But if you risk to go do it anyway when you get out, and then you have them say, I just totally don't get you at all. I'm sorry, I can't relate to you. I don't understand you. Why don't you just this? Why don't you just that? And you just feel so dang lost and alone. That's a horrible, horrible feeling.
That's a bad place to be.
Oh God. And to me, having people that are coming forward now, even showing up at this thing that Rick's having, oh my gosh, how wonderful to have somebody to talk to that gets you. Oh, what a gift. And I'm just grateful for you. And I'm thankful for that girl that was also with Barbara Anderson tonight. So anyway, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you so much. Any more questions, Rick? I'm happy to stay as long as I need or whatever. So I'm all good. No wife, no life.
Go ahead, 717. You're on with us. Go ahead, 717.
Hi, Gary. I just had to compliment you on your story. You had quite a serious story that you've been sharing. So just enjoyed it, and what you said is all true about some of them just too invested in that cult.
Yes, and thank you. I'm glad you appreciated and enjoyed it. I appreciate you being here as well.
Well, what
Because I've been thinking about just leaving the community by putting in my resignation notice and be out of there for good. That so symbolically burn these ships.
You sound like you're at the point you can do that, and if you're already out anyway, I think you'll feel good that you just made a clean cut. But that's your choice, obviously, right?
I've been to different churches and I ended up enjoying these services too.
Yeah.
The one that I enjoy attending First Baptist. It's a moderate traditional Baptist church, and have been to communion at Lutheran and Baptist both.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you're going out to different churches. Good for you.
It's a visit. And I love your story and about that we just try to pick ourselves up and make our life better instead of feeling sorry for ourselves.
Very good. That's easy to do. Who's up next? And thank you for popping in. I see some of the comments about the no wife, no life. I meant no wife, no strife. You feel better now for those of you making those comments? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Gary, we need to start calling that organization the Watchtower.
Yeah, right? My father used to call it Jehovah's wickedness.
It's Satan's wickedness, more like Satan's, and call him kingdom hell.
Right? So true. So true. Thank you for popping in.
All right.
Well, I'm happy that I'll let the next person go right ahead, and take care, Gary.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully we'll see you at the event.
978, you're on with us. Go ahead.
Hi, Rick, it's me. I just wanted to tell Gary, thank you so much for showing that you can get help without seeing a therapist. When I first left the Watchtower in Chicago, the certain ones said, well, you have to go to therapist and get all this worked out. I tried 3 different therapists, even one was a Christian therapist, and I felt that they were like a rent-a-friend. I didn't really get that much help. So
That's great, yeah. And they don't get it. There's no way possible.
well, your way is the new way, and burning your votes is a good. I like that too. I think, but that's what basically some people have to do. Is just that's it. I'm not going to wallow in my self pity or my now I'm getting divorced. I'm leaving, and my husband doesn't want me anymore. My whole life is all my friends are gone, and my life is crashing. But you can't. You have to go on. You just have to. So, and the therapist really didn't help me. So, thank you for sharing, and I'm looking forward to meeting you at the convention.
Likewise.
Well, there you go. Thank you, Susan. Let's go to the King of Dots. That's Gary, too. Gary, say hello to Gary again.
Hey, Gary.
From one Gary to another Gary. I wanted to help the earlier caller who asked there was the professional golfer who was a witness. There was one, Mark McCumber, and he had been a Bethelite. I know that was the big story at one time back in about 1990, 1991. So even though witnesses aren't supposed to do that stuff, as you know, Gary, they worship people who do go into sports. Like I think Larry Brown played for the Supersonics, and I think it was actually Chet Lemon who played for the Detroit Lions, won a World Series under Sparky Anderson, which is.
And look at the Serena Williams girls. They I don't think they were baptized, but they were allowed to do everything still. Yeah, I totally get you.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Gary. I dispute that because I heard all the time she was baptized. They wonder why she wasn't coming to meetings. She was here in Cincinnati at the Mason Southern Open. No, I think she was baptized. I think the witnesses actually practiced rebaptism in her case.
Yeah,
So
right.
okay. I'm sorry, but the witnesses do whatever they have to do to cover up their SHIT. And that's pretty much it, as you know for a fact. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. And that's
Very
really
true. Very true.
What part of Ohio are you from, by the way?
I'm in Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida now. But where were you originally from in Ohio?
No, I'm originally from Jamaica, born and raised in Jamaica, the island of Jamaica.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, okay. Go for Jamaica, Mon. You know,
Yeah,
whatever. But I raised a black stepson who became a Rastafarian and finally got out of that. He's on his journey, and that's what it is. Journey. And that's all I got to say, Gary. I'm going to let other people talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Anybody else with a question?
540, you're on with us. Go ahead.
Hey, Gary, you said, what do you believe in? I believe it's Saturday.
There you go.
I really related to you talking about the calendar and how we were so scheduled. I've done well in life. I got an education. I've prospered. But for me, I felt like as a born-in, I didn't fit in the Kingdom Hall. And some days I feel like I don't fit in the big world. And I had everything that a person could have: looks, education, smarts, no debt. I've done very well, and it kind of goes beyond imposter syndrome, which was a book. I just feel like I don't fit in anywhere except my own world.
What's your definition of fit in?
I see these classmates that are on a boat and they're all having a beer and they all look so happy. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a drinker. I have one once in a while, as you said, but I don't know how to be that happy-go-lucky group of people. I don't know how to be that.
So let me ask you, are you married or single?
I was happily married. I was with someone for 22 years. And then the fiance I had recently, he died. So I do relationships well. I have references with relationships, cooking, and at the bank.
So here's what I'm getting at. You don't get out enough. So when you don't get out enough, I understand that, because I don't, well, I get out a fair amount, but I need to get out more. When you don't get out enough, you're constantly, remember, your brain will validate all of your beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. So when you look at somebody who's out on the boat having some beer and having a drink, and you say, I don't fit in, you just validated, because that's not your type of lifestyle, that you don't fit in. But there's other lifestyles and other groups and other things that people do that you would fit in and feel more comfortable with. But because when you're looking at that, you're validating that. And that is how your brain will validate all of your beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. And if you're not careful, you'll become more and more and more isolated. It's something I have to be very, very careful of. Very careful.
You talk so much shit.
Hold on.
Look at your fucking dirty eyebrow.
Hold on 1 second.
You're a fucking dickhead.
The conference has been locked.
What that is, Gary, hold on there. We'll get Pixie back with us. But what that is we have, what they do, they're drunken Bethelites, Gary.
Oh, my.
They are Watchtower operatives, and they try to disrupt our program pretty much on a weekly basis. And it's what they are. We have been put on notice. We have been told by another Bethelite that
that's hilarious.
That these guys come in, and what they do at Bethel, and you're aware of it, and many people have come on here and aware of it. On Saturday night, they drink like crazy, and they really do. I mean, if you go to Bethel on Monday morning and notice the trash cans, they're filled with beer and whiskey bottles.
Wow.
And this is what we have. We have been put on notice. Another Bethelite has told us that these guys are coming in, trying to disrupt our program. And they hate it See what it is, Gary, the Jehovah's Witness organization, they hated to see apostates having fun and talking with one another. We were supposed to return to the vomit.
Right.
We are agents of Satan, the devil. We are workers of lawlessness. And so consequently, they try to disrupt the program, but they don't succeed.
No, good.
We keep moving forward. But I want to go back to Pixie. She is a regular caller into our program. Pixie, if you want to come on back in with Gary if you want, okay? Hit *6. Okay. Okay, well, we don't have Pixie. She'll come
Okay,
back.
we'll get somebody else.
Yeah, we got JP out of Los Angeles. Go ahead, JP.
Hi, Rick. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep.
I want to come back.
Okay, well, JP, hold on. JP, hold on, JP. We're going to bring Pixie on first because she was talking to Gary, but you hold on, then we'll bring you on after Pixie. Okay, Pixie.
That was helpful, Gary. And the other thing that I'm working on, and maybe you could help me, because I fit in with stage magicians and people that do hypnotism and things. But as a born-in witness kid, we had hard chairs and kids beaten within an inch of their life, and we had to have perfect posture and be perfect all the time. I'm a grown-up, and these things are still haunting me in terms of traumas, even though I have done very well in life.
So let me stop you there. You want to watch your, well, I want you to watch your words. Now, I know words are powerful, but words have no meaning. Words have no meaning other than the meaning you choose to give them. I want you to define for me, haunt me. Because that's where your problem is your definition of haunt me. So when you say they still haunt you, define that for me.
Yeah, it's kind of a PTSD where I'm back in that Kingdom Hall and I'm a kid, I'm very small, and I'm being pulled out of the Kingdom Hall to get beaten, and then I'm put back on a cold, hard chair again.
Okay, so when you have an emotion, positive or negative, you're going to do one of two things. Never forget this. When you have an emotion, positive or negative, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to ignore it, or you're going to reward it. So when you say this still haunts me, what happens is if you're not careful, that cold chair may be there, but you can do two things. You can ignore it or reward it. I'm going to sit on the chair because I'm not going to reward it. Rewarding it would be not sit on the chair. You follow what I'm saying?
I do. I will reframe that. Thank you very much.
So I want you to be looking at all the things that you're doing that might be rewarding some of the behavior or the triggers of your past. Know specifically what you do and then do opposite of that.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you very much. And I knew as a born-in yourself that you would understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
I totally get it. I totally get it.
Thank you, Pixie. We got 408. Is that you, JP? 408?
408. I'll be asking the other guy.
Okay, 408. Hang on. JP, did you want to come on? JP? Well, let's go to 408. Then we'll bring JP on later. Go ahead, 408. Okay, I'm sorry, sister. Hold on. Yeah, go ahead, JP. You're on with us.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to tell Gary, thank you for working with Rick in order to get the 6 screen started. I was raised as a JW, and I woke up when I was 30 years old, which was a little over 3 years ago. But I spent the first year just deconstructing the Jehovah's Witness belief and watching YouTube videos and stuff. And I had no idea that there was any kind of a phone line you can call in and a place to meet other people like there was on 6 screen. So I really thank you for starting that, because honestly, Rick wants to give credit, and he does give credit to himself for saving people, but I'm one of the people that he did save, because even though I woke up and a year went by, I was very down and very low because I had nobody to talk to in that until I found 6 screen. So I was almost on the brink of, you know, maybe doing something I wouldn't have wanted to now looking back on. So I think, you know, you and Rick also for starting this, because I got to meet people, not only Rick and yourself, but a lot of other people like Joe and Fran, and just tons of people on this channel that they've introduced me to also, along with Rick. And I just can't thank you both enough for helping me out, because this transition of becoming, from waking up from the witnesses to waking up to the reality that they were lying to me my whole life, and I almost gave my life to the organization. I almost died from a blood transfusion. So it was very traumatic to wake up, but to have a place to go like Six Screens, I really thank you and Rick Farron, and that's all I wanted to say. And you know, to all the Six Screens people, is you've been so much help to me, and I thank you all.
Well, we appreciate that, and I got to say that to Rick, for you're the one that kept this torch lit, my friend, long time going. You just stay at it, man.
Well, I'll tell you, Gary, it's so funny because I remember when we did the first program, you said, well, what we'll do is we'll start this, and what I'll do, Rick, is the first week we'll interview you. I says, okay, then the second week we'll interview you, Gary. So I can remember the first week we brought 23 people in when you were interviewing me. And then when I interviewed you, we upped the ante, went up to 29 people. And then you said, Rick, you know, it's really something when you get going here. We were both hoping that we were going to open up the doors of unbelievableness, but we didn't get it at first. So anyway, you said, Rick, why don't you just kind of handle it? And I'm here in the background if you need me. So I kept going on and on and on. And, you know, I never missed a Saturday night, Gary, since then. And
Unbelievable.
I couldn't do it. Seriously. We did it from the emergency room of a hospital. We've done it on the road traveling. And I always say, I'm here because you are here. Because these people, as you know, Gary, they have really suffered tremendously.
Yeah.
But it's so good to see that people really do connect here. There's a community. There's a really tight-knit community that is taking place here. We've had 3 marriages here from people that have met people here on the Six Screens. In fact, I was on Reddit the other day, and that's a forum online for ex-witnesses. And they were saying that, what is that Six Screens, a dating site or what? But
my goodness.
We have had 3
How
marriages.
about that?
Yeah. Well, let's bring on 408. 408, you were there with us?
And also there was a Donetta that had a question. I don't know if he or she can come online, but we'll get with 408 first. I just saw a question.
I just wanted to thank you. Is your name Gary, the nuts and bolts, keep it simple, stupid guy?
No, I don't know about I keep it simple, but not maybe somebody else, perhaps.
Okay, I just wanted to thank you for the way you are. There's always a sob story. There's always a boo-hoo story. There's always a yoo-hoo story. I'm a real nuts and bolts person. Everybody's been through a lot of stuff, and I feel bad for them. But the thing is, this is now, and we all have a choice. We make choices every second of the day. And I love what you said about thoughts. Thoughts are so powerful, and if you are not cognizant of the thoughts you have, then you're not going to be able to step back and realistically and objectively look at those thoughts. And I always tell people, when you have a feeling that you know, you feel bad, like, oh, that, how could I be so stupid, or you know, that I feel like crying, or that person hurt my feelings, or whatever it is, I always tell people, stop and ask yourself, does this serve me? This feeling, this thought, this attitude, does this serve me? If it doesn't, get rid of it. That is a choice. Does guilt serve you? Does happiness serve you? Does smiling serve you? Does fun serve you? Everything is a choice. And I could have 5 million things wrong, but if I have one thing
then there's always at least one thing to be happy about. There's a flower that's blooming in a pot where every other flower was dying. You know, the sun's up. I can walk. There is always something.
Yes.
To be positive and gratuitous. I don't know the word is, but I love the way you talk, and you are a source of so much good. It's all nuts and bolts. Too many people look outside themselves and wonder why they don't feel like they fit in, or wonder what's wrong with them. I should be more this or more that. Why look outside yourself when you're the only you in the universe? Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. Very kind of you. Keep up the great work. You've got the right attitude. That's for sure. Don't stop that.
Well, she has a really good attitude. But Gary, you're thinking, you're from Jamaica and you were born in Kingston, from when I read your bio. I've got a man that works for me, and he's a Jamaican. And he lives in Kingston. He lived there. He's over here now in America. But the funny thing is, can you speak Peshwa?
I can.
You can? Can you really? Would you say something? Would you say? In fact, he calls me up every day.
Rick, what you want me to say to you, Rick? Talk to me in a minute.
Okay. I want you to call me up, and I want you to say, do we have any work today, Rick?
Rick, we have any work today?
Yeah. So, but I mean, I can't understand a word he says. And so I say to him, I said, Vincent, his name is Vincent. I says, Vincent, do you speak, is that Peshwa, or is that Jamaica? Does Jamaica have its own language or what? He says, no, it's English. And then my wife and I, we started looking it up because I was trying to see if there was a translator, because he's such a good worker. He thinks people in America are lazy. I says many are, but geez, he works so hard. He calls me every day. We got work today, Rick. Want to go to work today? And I can hardly understand a word he says. But that's the funny, the Jamaican connection you have. But he was telling me that, people there, they work very hard. They get up early, 5 a.m. And he can't get over here in America. I have a shop in Lowell, a sign shop, and I got people working there. But, they don't start sometimes at 8:30. Some people dragging their feet around 10. He says, these people are lazy. These people are lazy. So
that's awesome.
That connected with me. Well, Gary, let's see. Do we have anybody else that wants to speak up? We had to lock the calls coming in because of that drunken Bethelite. So that kind of put a little clamper on things.
No worries. We'll take some more. Anybody else have any questions?
Any more questions for Gary before we leave? Now is your chance to do it. But, okay, let's see. Going down the list here. Okay, Gary, that's going to be it. That looks like, we had to, like I say, I locked it up because so the people couldn't call in because of that drunken Bethelite coming on. But, Gary, I want to thank you very much for coming in, being with us tonight. We're looking forward to seeing you at the convention.
And what I'll do at the convention is I'm going to go through a process to show how you can immediately learn to change your thought process and how to rewire and reprogram your entire thinking. And you can use it for cult BS. You can use it just for life. And it's very intentional, and it helps you literally take full control of your emotions. And I'll do some demonstrations, and I may even do some interventions, bring somebody on stage and walk through a process so everybody can watch how it's done. It's the mind is a powerful thing, and we have, unfortunately, especially for those of us who were raised in it, I mean, we got the bad rap sometimes, but now we have the ability to make our own choices. Not always easy, but it's definitely way better than being programmed and told what to do every step of the way. So I invite you to continue to do that and just be very, very careful of how you think. But real quickly, let me just wrap up with one thing. What is the difference between a positive thought and a negative thought? Again, the question, what is the difference between a positive thought and a negative thought? It is the outcome. So when you have a negative emotion and a negative experience in your moment, you're thinking about something that has a negative outcome. And when you're consciously aware of that, when you're excited and happy, you're thinking about a positive outcome. There's a difference. And if you're consciously understanding that, what happens is if we're not careful, we'll quickly say, well, it's because of the religion or whatever. And there may be some truth to that. But now we have the option at this point to no longer blame that or look at that. Okay, yes, it was done. That's what we went through. But now how can we look at it differently? What can we do to move on faster? Can we do to be more fulfilled and have a more fulfilling, purposeful life?
Well, thank you, Gary. That's a great way to close the program. And I wanted to say too that it's going to be really great to meet Gary. All you people can come to the convention and meet him. And one thing I noticed here, because I'm at the control panel here, the 6 screens up in Massachusetts, and all the phone calls, and we got a number of computers on here, and I'm checking them from time to time to see what's going on. But how I always rate a program, and we've done thousands of them, but is the retention rate. If you have a program that comes on and the retention, the people stay with it. They did that tonight. We gained a lot of new listeners too. But when the people stay with the program and they're not dropping off,
right,
that sends a signal, Gary, that they really appreciate what's being said. So you kept that retention rate tonight. We're proud of you. Gary, don't you ever change. You just keep saying Gary.
I appreciate that. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I have a YouTube channel, but I'm on all social media. It's Gary Coxe, GaryCoxe. I'm on Instagram quite heavily. If I don't respond to you, somebody on my team will, but we'll definitely try to communicate with you. If you need some help personally, reach out to me and I'll be happy to try to assist you. But definitely, I'll spend a lot of time at the event coming up in August. I'm looking forward to that. And then kudos to you, Rick, for putting all your time and energy to help so many people that you've helped literally save lives throughout the world. Well done.
Well, like I say, Gary, if it wasn't for you, I don't think I'd be here tonight. You made a big difference. Thank you. We'll see
you took it and ran. That's for sure.
Well, thank you. I'll be in touch with you. Thank you, Gary. Good night.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
God bless everybody. Have a blessed night. Bye now.
Bye. Well, there you go. That's Gary Coxe. My goodness, I'll tell you what, friends. It's amazing. It's really amazing. This man has gone on in life. He was, of course, one of Jehovah's Witnesses. He's gone on. He's got his helicopter license. He's got his aircraft license. It's amazing what Gary has done. And he's going to come to the convention and be with us. So we're all looking forward to that. Well, anyways, you're on the 6 screens, Telenetwork. You're on an extended edition of JW World News. And, of course, my name's Rick Farron. And I'm coming to you from right up here in the apostate capital of the world, up here in Boston. And it will be the apostate capital of the world. This August, we're going to have a minimum of 300, maybe 500 apostates. When's the last time 500 apostates got together? Or even 300. So it looks like we can really get that title and hold on to it for Boston being the apostate capital of the world. Well, anyways. Let's take a look. Boy, I'll tell you, we had a good start here tonight. We started at 6:00 and it was wonderful. Boy, we had people coming in. We had Barbara Anderson and Christine. They come on. She was a therapist, trained therapist. Boy, and she's a witness too. And like Gary was saying, you can go to a therapist, but if that therapist doesn't have any clue to what goes on in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses, friends, it's a waste of time and money. If you're going to go to a therapist, it would be good to find a therapist that understands you. And, like my wife says, Susan here, in fact, I never really heard the term until she started bringing it up. She says, if you go to a therapist that doesn't understand, the witness movement, then that's like renting a friend. You just basically, well, nice to meet you, nice to know you, but they're not going to help you. So anyways, right here, a lot of people get help, right? Now, I'm not a therapist. I'm not claiming anybody here tonight is, but I got news for you. This is like a giant therapy session. We all, look at even Gary, there he is, a motivational speaker. He makes his living doing this. He's a professional man. Look him up on YouTube. Look him up on Google. He's got a credentials that really speak for themselves. He's been on a number of programs, the doctor's program. Believe he's been on Dr. Phil. You name those talk shows. I think he was even on The View once, of all things. But he's been around and he tries to help people all over the country. So kudos to him. So I wanted to bring this up. We were talking tonight about some of the changes going on in the Watchtower, and before Gary and everybody came on, we've been talking about new light on baptism, and I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit. People have been sending me information saying what's going on in their congregation, and the Watchtower organization is now allowing people to be baptized. Now, I'm not going to say this is a nationwide arrangement at this point, but I do have a number of people that did send me information that's saying the congregation they're in is allowing for people that aren't really even like loyal witnesses. These are people just bebopping along. They go to a meeting once in a while. They might show up at the memorial. They don't even go out in service. But here it is. They're getting baptized. And I know it's running through your head. And I mean, the only thing I could think of is this is another trick. This is another trick in the Watchtower's bag of tricks of getting their numbers up. Just they're looking for everybody. And some of the pictures people have been sending me at the conventions. If you think there was empty seats the last few years, this is really embarrassing. If I was a Jehovah's Witness official and you rent out a large arena and you go in there and only half the seats are filled, that's going to be embarrassing. How do you handle that? What do you say? I mean, I know the witnesses, and I said this a number of times on the 6 screens. Well, there was one woman, one sister, Jehovah's Witness sister, and the son, he's a PMO, but he's questioning his mother. He says, Mom, I know the convention you went to, a lot of seats were empty. And she says, yeah, she says they were empty, but isn't that great that Jehovah is giving us all these extra seats so we can kind of lean back and put our books on them and put our feet up? I mean, they come up with all these cockamamie excuses. It's crazy. But anyways, this idea of baptism, this is, they're doing everything they possibly can to get people to get baptized so they can come back the end of the year and say, wow, look at all the new baptisms we have. When I got baptized, I had to answer, at the time it was 180 questions. Then it went up to 220 questions. I mean, all the questions you could possibly think of, but now they're letting people get baptized. They're not even asking questions from what I understand. Just, all right, put your t-shirt on, put your bathing suit on, show up and you get baptized. Friends, things are changing. Things are changing. Well, I wanted to talk about that. Yes.
Yeah, we had lots of lessons too about, Jesus being 30 years old and making sure that, you're making a dedication to Jehovah. We attacked the Catholic Church because they baptize babies. We attack them. How could they baptize a baby or a young man when he, doesn't really make a decision? So they used to liken it to 25, 30 when we were in that would be a good age where you could make a decision as an adult. But man, I'll tell you, they need to do something legally about baptizing minors. There needs to be some sort of something. I wish I knew attorneys or something that I could interject that. But when you baptize a teenager, there's a good chance he's not going to remain. He's going to leave for some reason. He's going to get involved with another girl. He's going to want to play in sports or something. And then he's already cuffed himself to governing body. And the only, I don't know if you'd call it retribution, the only thing that's going to happen is he's going to get cut off. And so it ought to be illegal. It's worse than giving alcohol to a minor. I mean, you're cutting off your own children. If that children decides to date outside the Kingdom Hall or, goes through his teenage attitude, I mean, he's out and he's cut off, and it's a serious thing. So anyway, I just wanted to interject that they made such a big point when we were young to make sure this is a dedication to Jehovah. And, Yeah, it was a serious thing. And like you said, Rick, now it's just opened up to people who are kind of hanging around. It's even opened up to children, 7 and 8 years old. And that ought to be a crime.
Well, I'll tell you, it really should be a crime. And I'm going to tell you something. The man that's coming to the convention, well, he's a lawyer. His name is Travis Walker, and he's out of Florida. And from what I understand, they're going to be talking a little bit about that trafficking. In fact, it's not only sex trafficking in the Watchtower, it's also they consider it trafficking labor. So he'll be talking about that at convention. Yeah, he'll be talking about that at convention. So looking forward to that. That's going to be unique. That's going to be very good. Well, thank you, Dan. Oh, always good to hear from you. Thank you.
You too, Rick.
Well, that's the music coming up. We're going to play that Jeopardy game very shortly. But I wanted to get to some more news that we didn't have a chance to talk about tonight. But so we talked about the baptisms. We talked about elders in the beginning. So many elders are leaving. And I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses here. So many elders are becoming PMO, physically and mentally out. I got information this week, and not a lot of information about a number of elders, because at first I thought it just might be one or two, but it looks like there's a lot. I can't give numbers here because who knows? But a number of elders are saying, that's it. We're sick of it. The Watchtower is trying to cram things down our throat. They're trying to change policy so rapidly. They're getting it, and the elders can't stand it, and they're right on the forefront. Friends, this is a significant problem the Watchtower headquarters has got to be dealing with. This is one of the 5 stages of a business collapse when you have some of the head people, the managers, disagreeing. They're shaking their head no. This is what's going on with the elders. And, these elders are in a real predicament, as this one man who gave me the information was saying that he's the Watchtower conductor. He conducts the Watchtower study, and he also has other responsible positions in the congregation. He says his wife is still so deeply involved with the witnesses and his 2 kids. He says, I am in a real pickle. What am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? And he's he's grasping for answers. And if he's listening there tonight, maybe somebody has an answer out there. But I'm sure that if he was listening in tonight and he was listening to Gary, who was just on, these things can help a person. They really can help a person, the things that Gary was saying. Okay, so one other thing I want to talk about, then we'll go to the duck game. Okay, guys like the duck game. So I wanted to talk about all of a sudden in this week's Watchtower magazine, there's an article about confession and really how witnesses really, to please Jehovah, really should make an effort to get to an elder and confess your sins. Now you say, well, that's nothing new, Rick. I mean, they've been saying that for years. They said, if you have a problem, go to the elders. And you know what? They kind of left it up to you. Or they left it up for other people to tattle on you, right? But now in this Watchtower that I was looking over for this weekend, it says right in there that it's really necessary. Now I'm not inserting words here that are going to in any way be in conflict with what the Watchtower is saying, but that's what I read from it, that they're encouraging you to go, and it's more than encouraging. It's like you have to go. Now, they for years have condemned the Catholic Church, and that's one of the issues the Watchtower has condemned the Catholic Church about. Well, they have to confess. Well, I got news for you. The Jehovah's Witnesses have to confess too, even though that wasn't really, totally outlined and pushed in our face. We all know that that's what we had to do. Now they're making it known in print. So this is going to put a lot of strain on the witnesses. I mean, their donkey is already overloaded. And to put this on them, it's just going to create more issues. I mean, how guilty does a Watchtower want to make people feel? Really? And the real understanding biblically, if you committed a sin and you really feel guilty, You don't have to take it up with any man. You don't have to go to a man and say, I did this, I did that. You take it to God. That's who you take it to. That's biblically speaking. You take it to God and you let him deal with it and he'll help you. But the Watchtower, they are so presumptuous. They are so evil to put that burden. And you know something? They're even encouraging. And this is also something I've been seeing in Watchtower publications. They're actually encouraging the witnesses to really tattle and spy on you. If there's someone in the congregation that is doing something wrong, you have to go tell on them. Geez, I mean, tattletales. That's childhood games. Do you really tattle on your friends? You don't even do that. There's nothing even biblically to back that up. Christians don't tattle on each other. They don't. But geez, in the witness world, they do. Well, I wanted to share those thoughts with you. And any thoughts before we move to the duck game? We're going to play a little duck game here tonight. And I'll give you the rules. You know the rules. We ask the questions. Then before you answer the question, you'll hear some Jeopardy music. So what you will do is when the question's asked, before you answer, let the music stop. Now we're on the honor system here. If you're going to answer these questions, you're going to, first of all, what you're going to do is shout out a number. Because I have so many people calling in here and this, I don't know who's talking. So pick a number from 1 to 100. When the music stops, shout out 10, 12, 14, 18, whatever your number is. The chances are you pick them at random. Nobody's going to have the same number, hopefully. But then what you want to do is you want to keep points on your own, on the honor system. If I give you a point, mark it down, and then you can save these points from 1 week to the next. When you get 5 points, you get a book. We get some beautiful books that Jim Hill, we know him as Nathan Natus out of Washington State. He's got the Christ will captors of a concept. Millions Now Living Will Never Die. We got a lot of books here. So he'd love to have you have one, and we'll mail it to you if you get 5 points. And then the second thing is if you get 10 points, or actually, I believe it's now 12 points. When you get 12 points, excuse me, it's kind of dry in here. When you get 12, let me take a sip of water. Hold on 1 second. It's a little dry, and I get the air conditioner on, and it dries you out. Excuse me. So if you get 12 points, you actually can win $100. So we've already had 3 winners on the duck game. So let's do this. Let's go to the first question, and we'll see if we get some takers. I believe we'll have some people calling in, as they usually do. So let's ask the first question. Now, the first question has to do with urban myths. And, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses, they sure love urban myths. The Jehovah's Witnesses have their own collection built up over many years, and this is part of their culture. In their culture, they have urban myths. So I just want you to tell me if this is a true urban. I'm going to give you multiple choice. I'm going to talk about, first of all, this is an urban myth that we've all heard in the Watchtower. This is how it goes. A man who just this minute murdered his wife and kids and has 2 sisters knock on his door. They have no idea what just happened, and they go their way. Now, when the man goes into court for the murder, he is asked, why didn't he kill the Jehovah's Witness? So he says something. So if someone can tell me what that man said in court and why he didn't kill the Jehovah's Witness at his door, answer the question after the music stops.
Five. 93.
The first one, it was a very faint voice, but I did hear, no, it was one before. I think it was 9.
Yeah.
Okay, 9.
Okay. With those 2 big
thing standing behind them two angels? Something like that, I think it was.
Well, I'm going to have to give it to you, Tom. I'm going to have to give it to you because, yeah, as a matter of fact, this is how the story goes. But it's an urban myth. I read that never took place, but that's what the witnesses spread around. So that's an urban myth. And let me just get back to my questions here. Okay, so so the answer in court was there were two huge men with them. That's what the man said to the judge. And it turns out the angels appeared to the man to protect the sisters. So you get a point. Take a point, Thomas.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, excuse me. Now let's go to the next one. We're going to stay on urban myths because the Watchtower has tons of them. You all heard them. They're all made up stories to make the witnesses look great. So here's another one. Here's another one right here. Hurricane Andrew. Of course, we all know that was the hurricane that hit Florida in 1992. The mayor of one of the hardest hit towns, Florida City, approaches the Jehovah's Witnesses. He asks if they are having any problems, he could help them. They mention a concern about permits. The mayor says he hasn't been able to get anyone to repair his roof. The Jehovah's Witness put his house on the work order and are promised they will have no more permits. Just get the work done, forget the permits. So this story gets piled on with you people do a better job than paid contractors. The mayor accepts a study, yada, yada, yada. So do you think that's true? Do you think that's a true urban myth that's been passed on in the Watchtower? Tell me after the music. Is that true? Did the mayor really say he was going to do away with the permits because the witnesses were working on his house? Anyone want to take a stab at it? I guess it's got people baffled. Was it true or was it false? Well, let's see. Go. Okay, one. What is it?
I think it's true.
It's true. It's actually true. I heard that one. Is this Nadine?
No, it's not Nadine. It's Grow. Grow Faith.
Oh, Grow Faith. Take a point. I know you've been getting a few points, Grow Faith. Well, thank you for taking a shot at that because for some reason or another, people seemed that they didn't want to really get into that. All right, well, we'll do one more here tonight, and then we'll close it down. Let's go her. Now you might have heard this one before. Hold on one second. We got a call coming in here. Hello. Okay, hold on. Well, okay, I thought it was just okay. Well, we'll get to that later. Hey, let's do one more, and then we'll cut you guys loose for tonight. Let's do another urban myth, and it's a multiple choice. Now, you tell me if this is a real urban. Well, I'm going to give you multiple choice and what happened. Okay, a burglar who broke into a Jehovah's Witness home, only to have the owner come home. He hid under the bed and so heard the woman reading the Bible. He escaped, taking her Bible with him. So the urban myth Jehovah's Witnesses is spreading around to one of these three things. Eventually, he lands up marrying the sister, and they both decide to go into the full-time pioneer work. B, he starts a study and gets baptized. 3, his conscience moved him to return the Bible to the local Kingdom Hall. And much to his surprise, he reunited with his identical twin fleshly brother that he hasn't seen in 26 years. Don't answer till the music stops. Anyone want to take a shot? I get these urban myths, I guess, are confusing the people out there. Let's go with 9. Okay, 9. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, that's a true thing as far as I remember.
Well, it's true, but I want you to tell me what the outcome was, Thomas. I'm gonna read the outcome again, and you tell me what the outcome was. These are some of the things that they say about it. So here's the outcome. He was the burglar. He took the Bible, stole the Bible from the woman's house, ran out. So did he land up marrying that sister? And they both decided to go into the pioneer work? That's A. He starts a study and gets baptized. That's B. His conscience moved him to return the Bible to the local Kingdom Hall. And much to his surprise, he reunited with his identical twin fleshly brother that he hasn't seen in 26 years. So of those 3 things you heard, Thomas, what do you think happened?
Oh, okay. I think it's the third one, that last one where he reunited with his twin brother and returned the Bible to the Kingdom Hall.
No, that's a good, that's a good guess, though. No, what happened, and this is the urban myth, if you can remember it. Actually, what he did is he went to the Kingdom Hall, I guess, and he started a study and got baptized. So that's what they passed. So these are what they call urban myths. You guys have all heard them. Well, I'll tell you what, we've been going here for quite a while, and I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight to the Six Screens Telenetwork. Eric will not be on tonight. As you know, Eric, with his program Awakening After the Watchtower, we know that Eric has moved to Maine, and he's also still in the process of moving. So he's very busy, and we all know what that's like. So Eric will be back with us as soon as he can do it, and he'll be burning the midnight oil here on the Six Screens. Well, again, thank you for sharing your evening with us. We had a Power Pack program, and the programs are getting better. We really are. We're getting good guests on, and if you guys can make it to the convention, do what you can. I know some can't, but we're going to live stream it anyways. But if you could come and be in person, you are going to be hitting your head on the doorpost on the way out. So I want to say this. I want you all to keep standing tall. I don't want you to ever give in, up, or out. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. There'll be no Six Screen Sunday, but we'll see you next week right here, Saturday night on the Six Screens Telenetwork. Thank you, everyone. Good night, everyone.